The future of Earth is cooked, for real. The whole planet turns into a giant popsicle. Cities freeze. Everywhere is a giant freezer. And boom, welcome to the new ice age. But bro, Gavin? My guy tries to keep his cheating ex alive in that nightmare, gives her his last bit of food, yet that bitch still lets him die in the snow. Skin and bones, alone. But just when he thinks it's game over, he wakes up years earlier in a sunny cafeteria, face in a puddle of drool like nothing ever happened. Yup, he regressed. Plot twist of the century. Now Gavin is back with every brutal memory of the frozen hell he crawled through, and he is finished being everyone's punching bag. When the same bitch pops up trying to ruin his day again, he switches gears fast. He flips fate like a table, dodges every backstab, stocks supplies like a maniac prepping for doomsday, and trolls anyone dumb enough to cross him. This smart kid sells his house, hustles cash from every direction, and even drags his best bro into schemes to sell his kidney that would make a loan shark cry. Because he is the only one who knows what is coming. The Ice Age is on the way, the countdown has started, and Gavin is rewriting the whole script before the world freezes over again. So, without further ado, let's diving into the story. It was a super sunny day, and all the students were walking around the campus, ready for class or whatever. Everybody looked pretty chill. Inside the cafeteria, things were loud and busy. But then, there was this guy named Gavin Clark. He did not look normal at all. He was slumped over a table, totally asleep. Someone come over with 2 trays of food. Gavin's friend, Yaniel Parker, was the one coming. He thought Gavin must be super tired, maybe because Gavin had been up late talking to Xenia Scott again. Yaniel even checked Gavin's forehead, just in case he was sick. Dude was drooling too. You could tell he was out cold. Suddenly, Gavin started waking up. He smelled the food and got super excited. He looked so surprised and kind of insane when he realized there was real food right in front of him. Then, he yelled and acted like this was the best food ever in the history of food. He smacked the table and started shoving chicken and rice in his face like a total maniac. Other students saw it and looked kind of freaked out. Yaniel told Gavin to chill out and not to choke, but Gavin did not listen at all. In fact, he even started eating his friend's food. Yaniel was not happy, bro. He almost exploded and asked Gavin what the heck he was doing, since now he had nothing to eat. After Gavin absolutely destroyed all the food, he leaned back. His belly was sticking out like a balloon, and he looked dazed but also weirdly happy. Inside, Gavin thought about how he was really back, that he had been reborn. Can you believe it? Reborn. Yaniel thought Gavin was being crazy. He asked if his friend was full now and said that maybe he was some kind of starving ghost in his past life, because normal dudes do not eat like that. He was kind of mad that Gavin had eaten all his food too. Gavin, with a little smile, said that he really was a reincarnated starving ghost. He remembered dying in a freezing cold apocalypse because he had no food. Dude, that sounded rough. Yaniel got even more worried. He wondered what happened. Did Gavin's girlfriend Xenia dump him or something? Yaniel really did not trust her. Anyway, Gavin suddenly became very serious and patted Yaniel on the shoulder. He seemed almost shocked to see Yaniel alive, and he was talking about how they could start everything over again. Yaniel thought his crazy friend was being super creepy. Then, Gavin grabbed Yaniel by the shoulders and needed to know the date, the year, the month, the whole thing. His friend was kind of confused, but he told Gavin it was August 8th, 2024. Gavin remembered something terrible, a vision of a city totally frozen over. He told Yaniel that soon the world would enter an insane ice age. In just half a month, he said, there would be a crazy snowstorm for 3 months, and everything would freeze. Temperatures would go down to minus 50 degrees? Dude, minus 50. That was wild. Yaniel just laughed and said Gavin was joking. It was summer, and it was super hot. So of course, it sounded ridiculous that a snowstorm was coming. But Yaniel said that if Gavin was really in trouble, he could help, as long as it was possible, because they were super close friends. Then Gavin dropped the bomb. He said he needed to borrow 1 billion. Yup, 1 billion. Yaniel nearly spit out his drink. He could not believe what he was hearing. Gavin insisted he was serious. This crazy shit? Saying some nonsense again? So Yaniel said there was no way anyone could get 1 billion. Even if he sold his own dad, it would not be enough. Gavin asked how much he could get if he really sold his dad, and Yaniel thought maybe 500 million. But he got mad and asked if his friend was even human. What a bastard child thing, wanted to sell his own father for cash. Suddenly, a couple walked into the cafeteria. The guy was Zach Young, and he acted like a big shot with his arm around Xenia Scott. Yup, that was the same Xenia from before. Zach told her that he got them a private room to eat, and after that, he wanted to take her to a fancy theater and show her something big. Xenia just giggled and said that Zach was naughty and she loved it. These two were totally into each other, and they didn't care who saw. Of course, Gavin and Yaniel saw everything. Yaniel looked mad when he noticed her. He recognized her right away and shouted that it was Xenia Scott. He got seriously angry, and said to Gavin that Xenia was cheating on him with Zach, who was some rich dude from a group called Vast Dragon. He reminded Gavin that he did a ton for Xenia, even going broke just to buy her expensive clothes. Now, she was going behind his back? Yeah, she is a bitch. Somehow, Xenia saw the guys and looked nervous. She just blurted out a question, asking why Gavin was there, when this bitch didn't even try to hide what she was doing. When Yanil got angry for his friend, Xenia said she didn't owe anyone an explanation. What they saw was what it was. The hell? Anyone, please stop me before I slap this crazy woman. Anyway, Gavin didn't say anything. He looked down, remembering the past. Inside his head, he saw these dark memories, like a mini-movie. He remembered Zach kicking Xenia away in the snow after the world turned into a cold nightmare. Then, he saw himself finding Xenia freezing and sad, and he gave her some blankets and hot food. But in the end, Gavin remembered himself lying dead on the ground, skin and bones, because he'd starved to help Xenia. Dang, his old life was rough. He thought about how Xenia had cheated on him before too, with a different guy. But when things got bad in the apocalypse, that other guy dumped her in a snap. He had been such a fool, taking her back, doing everything for her and starving while she ate. What did he get? A bunch of betrayals. His death from hunger was basically her fault. Yaniel told Gavin there was no point staying. He said that bitch wasn't even pretending to care anymore and that they should forget about her. But Gavin gave this cold smile and said there was no rush. That surprised Yaniel, who just wanted to leave, because for him, being around Xenia was awful. Zach got cocky and started taunting our boy. He told everyone he heard Gavin was a super simp for Xenia, always bothering her like some gross bug. Xenia joined in too, saying that Gavin never did anything for her and all his caring was just for himself. She said he was disgusting, and everything he did was like harassment. Man, she was brutal. Gavin then asked if she was done. Zach sneered and said, "What? You think you can win her back by being pathetic?" Xenia said even if Gavin begged on the floor, she would ignore him, because Zach was her real soulmate now. Yaniel wanted to leave again. He told our protagonist there was no point in getting humiliated even more, but Gavin said he needed 5 more minutes. Yaniel was in total despair and couldn't understand why Gavin cared about Xenia at all, because he thought Gavin was actually a great guy. Zach thought that was hilarious. He told Gavin to go ahead and do whatever tricks he wanted. He even said that if Gavin was entertaining enough, he'd give him a piece of used toilet paper as a reward. I believe these two people just rage bait me at this point. Before Zach could finish his insult, thank God our boy just slapped him across the face, super fast. The sound was so loud that everyone froze. Xenia screamed. Yaniel couldn't believe what he saw. Nobody expected Gavin to fight back. Zach was furious. He shouted that Gavin was dead now and charged at him. But our MC dodged Zach's punch like it was nothing, then kicked him hard in the chest. Zach flew backwards. Yeah, for real. Yaniel was totally amazed. He didn't know Gavin could fight like that. Xenia got scared and worried for Zach, yelling at Gavin. She said Gavin was going to be in deep trouble because Zach was the heir to some giant company. Zach got up, bragged about being a Taekwondo black belt, and tried to attack Gavin again. But Gavin just punched him in the face and knocked him out for real. Hell yeah. This is so satisfying. Gavin looked down at Zach and called him trash. In his mind, he thought about how the apocalypse was awful, but he had learned some cool fighting moves just to survive. So, handling a guy who was just showing off, like Zach, was super easy. Anyway, right after our boy knocked out this trash blonde guy in front of everyone, Yaniel just stared at him with his mouth open. He could not believe how tough his crazy friend had just become. Seriously, since when did he know how to fight like some action movie hero? Meanwhile, Xenia rushed over to Zach, who was knocked out on the floor. She looked up at Gavin, super angry. She called him a barbarian and told him he was crazy for hurting Zach. Then she started making demands, saying he should kneel down and apologize to Zach or else she would never forgive him. Guess what? Gavin did not care at all. He then slapped Xenia right across the face. Dang, that shocked everyone. He let her know that she had no power here. Please, don't wake me from this happy dream. To see a bitch get slapped so hard, my day is completed now. Then, Zach started waking up, but he was super angry. He shouted that he would use all of his money and connections to destroy Gavin, and that taking him down would be easy, like squashing an ant. But when Zach tried to punch again, our MC totally blocked him like it was nothing. Then he hit Zach right in the jaw and knocked him back down again. He grabbed Zach by the jacket and started searching his pockets. Zach started freaking out, asking what our boy was doing. Gavin then pulled out a tiny spray bottle from Zach's inside pocket. He had a sneaky smile and said to himself that he expected to find it. Zach lost it and started yelling for him to give it back, looking really nervous. Our protagonist held the bottle in the air and asked Zach if he felt guilty. He wanted to know how many girls Zach had hurt with it. Zach pretended he didn't know what Gavin was talking about. But as soon as Zach rushed him to grab the bottle, Gavin quickly stepped aside and sprayed the stuff right in Zach's face. Uh-oh. Zach started coughing and sputtering. Then suddenly, he started screaming. His eyes went all bloodshot and wild. Xenia did not know what was happening. She asked Zach if he was okay, but Zach didn't even answer right. He just screamed for everyone to get away from him and totally lost control. And then, dude, it went totally nuts. Zach tackled Xenia to the ground and started ripping at her pink dress, right in front of everyone. She screamed for help, and you could tell things were about to get really bad. But Gavin stayed super calm. He just put his hand on his goat friend's shoulder and said that 5 minutes were up and they should get out of there. Yaniel was freaking out and kept asking what the heck was going on with Zach Young because this was insane. For God's sake, why did this guy suddenly blush looking at that bitch? Gavin then showed him the empty spray bottle. He explained that it was a super strong aphrodisiac. If someone breathed it in, they'd go totally wild and lose all control. He said that Zach had used this nasty stuff on other people before, hurting a lot of girls, so this time he made Zach take a taste of his own medicine. Yaniel started to worry, because this all happened in public, right in the school cafeteria. He wondered if Zach would call the cops on Gavin for revenge, but Gavin just smiled and said not to worry. He explained that Zach had used this thing on so many girls, and some of them had gotten hurt so badly that they ended their lives. There was no way Zach would want anyone to know about it, so there was no way he would go to the police. Plus, as the heir to a huge company, Zach was too proud. Gavin was sure that he would try to get revenge himself, in private. The friend realized that was true. With Zach's ego, he would never tell anyone what really happened. He would just come after Gavin alone. After walking out of the cafeteria drama, Yaniel suddenly got curious and asked Gavin where they were going now. Gavin gave a sneaky smile and told him they were going to sell the house. Dude, that was wild already. So, next thing, they were inside this really bright real estate office. Yaniel looked super worried and tried to stop our protagonist. He reminded him that this was the only house Gavin's parents left him. Was his crazy friend really just going to sell it so easily? But Gavin was like, "Yup, I'm selling it." No hesitation at all. He sat down at a desk and signed the paperwork super fast, not even blinking. Inside, our boy was thinking about why he did it. With all that money, 3.1 million, he needed to buy a ton of supplies before the apocalypse started. That was the only way he could be ready and have a big advantage when the world turned into a frozen nightmare. After the agent handed him the signed papers, Yaniel followed Gavin out. He was still totally confused and worried. He pointed out that house prices were getting higher and higher, and there was no need to rush. He just couldn't get what Gavin was thinking. But Gavin only said that they needed to move on to the next stop. Yaniel couldn't keep up and asked what they were doing now. Our boy got super excited and said they were going to spend money. Yeah, the friend probably thought our protagonist had lost his mind. So, they went to this huge supermarket. Gavin walked straight up to the manager and told her he wanted 1,000 bags each of rice, flour, and oil, plus 10,000 cans of every canned food. The manager was stunned, but Gavin said he was sure. Yaniel was just standing there in shock, asking if his friend was stocking up for opening another supermarket or something. Gavin checked with the manager about delivery, and she was excited to help, saying they could do the delivery and the heavy lifting too. All Gavin had to do was give an address. Gavin turned to his friend and asked him about that empty warehouse his family owned in the suburbs. Yaniel admitted they had a warehouse, but he couldn't believe Gavin was going to fill it with all those supplies. Our boy told him that was exactly the plan, and asked for the address so he could keep buying more stuff. While this was going on, 2 girls from their class spotted them in the supermarket. One girl had purple hair and the other had green hair. The purple-haired girl said she recognized Gavin and that she heard he got cheated on by Xenia. The green-haired girl mentioned that the supermarket was fancy and only for people with a membership, and wondered what Gavin was even doing there. They both thought Gavin was too poor to afford anything in a place like this. Over in the electronics section, Gavin started acting totally wild again. He told the workers to give him 5 Alienware computers, plus 10 TVs and 10 game consoles. In his mind, our protagonist thought about how, when the apocalypse came and it was super cold outside, they'd be trapped indoors for ages. So you had to have good entertainment. No way was he going to be bored during the end of the world. The manager was so happy. She told our boy that he was their biggest client of the year. The 2 girl classmates overheard this and almost fell over from shock. The purple-haired girl realized Gavin just dropped at least 200,000 on computers alone. The green-haired girl saw that all the TVs and game consoles were super expensive too. They just could not figure out how Gavin, who everyone thought was broke, suddenly had so much cash. Our MC kept going, pointing to another part of the store, and ordered all the appliances and every down jacket. He wanted everything, bro. The purple-haired classmate was freaking out, whispering that Gavin must have spent over $1 million already. She had never seen someone spend money so crazily. By now, she was sure Gavin was hiding the fact that he was a super rich kid all along. The green-haired classmate agreed and thought this was their chance. So both girls rushed over, getting excited to talk to Gavin. Yeah, a new bitch detected. Just as Gavin finished his shopping, the purple-haired classmate went up to him, struck a cute pose, and tried to be super friendly. She greeted him and acted like Gavin was suddenly way more handsome. You could just tell she was about to try something. Gavin, though, was thinking to himself that he had spent most of the money, but he was basically ready for the apocalypse. Now, there was something even more important he needed to do next. Suddenly, our boy noticed those two girls. Their names were Sharon and Jolene. Now, these girls looked sweet, but he knew the truth. In his past life, when the apocalypse came, Sharon and Jolene used their looks to form a gang of thugs and robbed people everywhere. He even remembered how he got robbed by them once. They took all his clothes and he almost froze to death. No way was he ever falling for their tricks again. But in this life, our protagonist played it cool. Sharon abruptly leaned in all flirty and asked Gavin why he was being quiet and suggested they go have something to eat together. Jolene smiled too, because the two of them were already planning to make him spend a ton of money. Gavin said sure and added a smile. Then he told Yaniel to take all the stuff home for him since he had something else to do. Sharon and Jolene secretly thought that Gavin was such a pushover and that it was their time to get rich by draining his wallet. Sharon then found a fancy new restaurant nearby and said a meal there was at least $5,000 or $6,000. Since Gavin was suddenly a sugar daddy, they were ready to feast. Gavin just agreed. He acted super hungry and told them to hurry up because he was starving. Soon, all three of them stood in front of this tall, super shiny glass building. Jolene asked how Gavin liked it and pointed out how expensive everything must be inside. Sharon said they didn't bring just anybody here. But Gavin looked at it and just wanted to get inside for some food. Inside the restaurant, it was even fancier than outside. There were well-dressed people at every table. Gavin, Sharon, and Jolene sat down together. Jolene asked Gavin how he liked the food here. Gavin checked out the menu and said the dishes looked pretty expensive, but the girls just laughed it off and said it wasn't expensive at all. Sharon said that if Gavin wasn't going to order, the girls would choose all the most expensive stuff themselves. They ordered things like black gold caviar, fancy Wagyu beef, Antarctic lobster, and just pointed at whatever they wanted. An hour later, their table was totally covered in empty plates and wine bottles. Sharon stretched happily and said it had been a long time since she ate so well. Jolene and Sharon asked Gavin how he liked the meal. Our boy said the food was great and that he was super full, then got up and said he was going to step outside for a moment. But here was where things got interesting. He walked up to the front desk. The receptionist told him the bill was $18,800. She wanted to know if he was going to pay cash or card, but Gavin said he wasn't here to pay. Instead, he wanted the restaurant to prepare 100 tables of the same feast so he could pick everything up in 10 days. The receptionist nearly passed out from shock. Gavin even showed his card and said he'd pay in advance. Inside his mind, our protagonist remembered how, in the apocalypse, he had been forced to eat canned food every single day and totally got sick of it. Now, he was planning to order 100 big feasts so that, even when the world froze, he could still eat really well. He also believed he'd find some way to keep all that food fresh for a long time. Back at the table, Sharon and Jolene watched Gavin go and thought he was being good for paying the bill. They planned to make him buy them expensive handbags next, thinking this rich guy was the ultimate fool. But at the reception desk, after his crazy giant order was placed, our boy just waved and walked off. He told the restaurant the women at the table could pay the bill themselves. He didn't even look back. As he left, he thought to himself that he had pretty much finished spending the money from selling his house. Time to get more. He went straight to loan platforms on his phone and started borrowing money like crazy. He was walking down the street, just scrolling on his phone, feeling pretty proud. He had already borrowed $2.7 million from 36 different small loan apps, and there were still more places to get cash if he wanted. He really thought this was the perfect way to get rich before the world ended. Suddenly his phone rang. It was Sharon calling him. She was mad. She wanted to know where Gavin went, but Gavin only smiled and said that something had come up, and he was just heading home. Yet she was mad that Gavin left her and Jolene with a giant bill and demanded to know why he didn't pay. Our MC just asked why he should bother. He reminded her that she and Jolene were the ones who dragged him out to eat, and they were the ones who ordered all those super expensive dishes. He said it had nothing to do with him. Yeah, serves those two bitch right. Sharon tried to guilt him and said he wasn't a real man if he bailed on the bill. She complained about how expensive the food was. Gavin got a bit savage there and pointed out that he warned them, but they were the ones wasting money and now whining about the price. Honestly, dude, Sharon did this to herself. When Sharon started calling Gavin a broke loser, he just told her to ask the manager if he looked poor. After all, he ordered 100 tables of the exact same meal. Sharon didn't believe him at first, but when she looked at the receptionist, she confirmed that Gavin really did order 100 tables of food. Sharon's whole attitude changed in a second. She went from angry to desperate. She begged Gavin to come back and pay, figuring that if he could buy 100 tables, he could for sure cover just one meal. But our boy just hung up on her. thinking he wasn't about to spoil rotten people like her. Inside the restaurant, Sharon started freaking out more. She told Jolene that Gavin actually called them rotten idiots and refused to help. Jolene panicked too because they totally didn't have enough money to pay. The receptionist wasn't having any of their nonsense and just told them they couldn't pay later. Sharon finally decided to call a guy named Hunter for help. She planned to take revenge on Gavin no matter what. Meanwhile, our protagonist was out on the street and remembered something super important: the lottery. In his past life, he won $3,000 from the lottery with a lucky ticket around this same time. He then rushed to buy a bunch of tickets, thinking that if he hit the top prize, he could get plenty of money for his next moves. Of course, he still had to wait 2 days for the results. Hope he was feeling lucky. Later that day, Gavin met up with Yaniel at the warehouse. Yaniel seemed both upset and tired, grumbling that Gavin was out flirting and eating fancy while he had to do all the hard work moving boxes and loading supplies. He asked if his friend had any conscience left after all that. But Gavin said not to worry and promised he would make it up to him with some excitement that night. Yaniel didn't get it at all. He couldn't understand why Gavin was spending money insanely fast, filling the place with mountains of supplies. Our boy just repeated that. When the Ice Age came, all this stuff would save their lives. He explained that people would freeze and starve, and food would be worth more than gold. He begged Yaniel to trust him one more time. Yaniel said if Gavin didn't seem so normal, he would have thought Gavin was absolutely nuts. He just could not believe a word about the coming apocalypse. But Gavin told him not to worry. Soon, Yaniel would see for himself. Suddenly, things got sketchy. 3 shady-looking guys blocked their path. They were thugs for sure. One of them asked if our boy was Gavin Clark. Gavin guessed right away they must be working for Hunter Walsh, who Sharon called after the restaurant disaster. The second thug, waving a baseball bat, told Gavin off for hitting on Hunter's girl and said a poor student like him had some nerve. Yaniel freaked out and threatened to call the police. But Thug 1 laughed and said he wanted to see if the police would get there before he broke their legs. Gavin calmly put his hand on Yaniel's shoulder and said there was no need to call the police. The boss thug was bald and swinging a baseball bat, looking super mean. He actually thought it was funny that Gavin wasn't calling the police and told him it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. Yaniel started to panic. He told the thugs that his dad was the boss of Parker's Building Materials, yeah, trying to pull some "my dad's important" card. He just begged them not to touch his friend, but the bald thug wasn't worried. He said they wouldn't mess with Yaniel, but Gavin was definitely getting a beatdown. Yaniel didn't back down though. He just grit his teeth, then stood in front of Gavin, ready to protect him. He even yelled at Gavin to run while he held them off. Bro, that's some real friendship. But the thugs didn't care at all. The blonde one told Yaniel to move, and the bald leader kept taunting them, saying they were dead meat for messing with Hunter. Then the bald thug swung his bat at Gavin. Yaniel was so scared, he yelled Gavin's name, but the man himself didn't even break a sweat. He easily dodged the swing and told the thug that he could tell they had never trained before. Savage. He then kicked the thug so hard in the stomach that the guy doubled over. Then, he grabbed the bat from him like it was nothing. The bald thug started to complain, so Gavin just smashed him in the mouth with the bat. All his teeth got wrecked. The other thugs totally panicked, thinking our boy was a serious beast. Now, it was Gavin with the bat, and the rest of the thugs circled him. He just challenged them, telling them to come at him all together. Those guys actually tried, but it didn't help. Gavin totally beat them down, swinging the bat left and right, knocking every single one to the ground. Yaniel couldn't believe this was even the same guy. In his head, he wondered if Gavin was still the friend he knew. How did he become a one-man army? In the end, Gavin stood over all the moaning, beaten-up guys. He asked if they finally had enough. The blonde thug gave up fast, saying they admitted defeat and couldn't take any more. But Gavin wasn't done. He told them to transfer him $100,000 each if they really had enough. The blonde thug was totally shocked. He said this was straight-up extortion. So our savage MC just hit him again to make his point. He told them if they didn't pay quick, next time he'd break all their legs. Suddenly, Gavin's phone buzzed with a notification. The thugs had sent him $600,000. That's the power of not messing with a dude who lived through the apocalypse. He thought to himself that this wasn't cruelty, just survival. He had seen guys like Hunter do the worst stuff ever during the apocalypse, so he didn't care how rough he had to be now. After that, he put his arm around Yaniel and told him to stop daydreaming, because he was going to take him somewhere cool. Yaniel was still buzzing from the fight, but he was down for the adventure. They went to this crazy nightclub with flashing lights, bumping music, and people dancing everywhere. Yaniel totally loved the vibe and said after the insane day they just had, he needed to chill and have some fun. Gavin walked up to the bar and asked to see someone named Mr. Jacobs. He said he was there to make a delivery. The bartender told him to hold up a second while he made a call. Suddenly they were surrounded by these serious-looking guys in suits and dark sunglasses. Now, our goat friend started freaking out. He thought he just wanted a little fun, but he did not expect this kind of trouble. He told Gavin that his heart was beating so fast but not in a good way. He kept asking where they were and what on earth they were doing. I mean, who wouldn't be scared with all those tough guys around? Then someone shouted that Mr. Lowe was here. That sounded important and scary at the same time. Suddenly, even more bodyguards came closer and made a wall so thick, Yaniel probably felt like an animal in a zoo. An old man stepped forward. Yep, this was Mr. Lowe, and nobody wanted to mess with him. Mr. Lowe looked at the two guys and asked if they came to make a delivery, because he had never seen their faces before. Gavin said that it was their first time meeting, but he heard that Mr. Lowe was expecting some goods, so he showed up. Mr. Lowe glanced at their empty hands and wondered where the goods were, since they clearly had nothing. Our boy pointed at himself and Yaniel and said that the goods were inside them. Dude, what? Mr. Lowe just laughed like this was the weirdest thing he ever heard. He said that usually, people don't deliver themselves as the goods. Yeah, I guess that was true. But then, things got nasty fast. Mr. Lowe's face turned super serious, and all his bodyguards pulled out their pistols and aimed straight at Gavin and Yaniel. Dude, that escalated so fast. He told his guys to grab the two as prisoners, and of course, Yaniel panicked even more. He begged everyone not to do anything crazy, and said that his dad was kind of a big boss in town. He also shouted at Gavin, super confused about what goods they were even talking about. Gavin stayed calm, almost too calm for the mess they were in. He explained to Yaniel that Mr. Lowe was in the business of selling human organs, so the goods were actually the organs inside their own bodies. He told Yaniel not to panic, but honestly, what person wouldn't panic at that point? Yaniel lost it. He screamed about organs and wondered how anyone could stay calm about selling their body parts. Gavin talked right back to Mr. Lowe. He explained that they wanted to make a deal. If Mr. Lowe was buying, then they were selling. He even teased Mr. Lowe, as if saying that maybe he was too scared to buy. Mr. Lowe got extra mad and said that there was nothing in the world that he would not dare to buy. And you know what? Everyone seemed to believe him. Gavin then set the price. $10 million for all his organs. But Mr. Lowe wasn't playing around. He said that $5 million was all Gavin could get because the police were cracking down right now. The price was just low, bro. Our boy agreed anyway, but only if Mr. Lowe paid the money first, and then he would give his body to him in 3 days. Wow, that was a totally insane deal. Mr. Lowe thought about it. Then he shook Gavin's hand and said they had a deal. He also warned him not to even try to run away, because he had 1,000 tricks to find him if things went bad. Right after that, a bodyguard gave Gavin a contract and a pen. Just like that, man. Gavin looked at it and asked for another one so that Yaniel could sign too. Yaniel freaked out again and said that he definitely was not selling his organs. But Gavin told the bodyguards that, yes, Yaniel was selling too. Yaniel tried to argue again. He explained that he didn't need the money and just did not want to do this. But the bodyguards had no patience. One of them shoved the contract into Yaniel's hands and even aimed a gun straight at his head. The bodyguard only said that he should stop talking and just sign the contract. Man, imagine having Gavin as your friend. I would kill him on the spot. After that insane nightclub, Gavin and Yaniel finally got out. They started walking away from the club's entrance, but Yaniel looked super mad and also scared out of his mind. He told Gavin that he just wanted some excitement, but instead, how the fuck his own friend had actually sold him. Yep, Yaniel definitely thought Gavin was the worst bro ever, but our MC acted like it was no big deal. He said that his friend should not sweat the small stuff and told him to get ready for another adventure. Like, wow, Gavin was way too chill about almost getting them both killed. Yaniel could not believe it. He said that this was not some silly little thing. He was shaking because he knew about Mr. Lowe. Everyone in the city said that Mr. Lowe was a big gangster, a really bad guy with connections everywhere. He thought they only had 3 days left before Mr. Lowe would literally tear them apart. Gavin told him that Mr. Lowe had done a ton of horrible things. He said the guy had no heart at all and had sold who knew how many human organs. But he also said that, in 3 days, Mr. Lowe would be dead. Whoa. Gavin sounded super sure about that. Yaniel was losing his mind. He asked Gavin if he was actually planning to fight Mr. Lowe. He did not believe it one bit, and said Mr. Lowe was not some weak guy like Hunter's thug friend. He also pointed out that all of Mr. Lowe's men had real guns, not toy ones. Gavin just smiled and told him to come along, saying he was about to show him something so big it would feel like the world was ending. That was either awesome or terrible news, depending on how you looked at it. Next, they showed up during the day, in front of this massive, beautiful villa. Gavin talked to a real estate agent and said he only wanted to rent this villa and no other. Inside an office, Yaniel sat down with Gavin, looking pretty confused. He didn't get what was going on. Why would they need a villa now? Gavin said that there was something good in that villa, but, dude, he did not say what it was. Then, our MC started thinking back about his old life. He remembered that during the disaster, this villa had the fewest problems and the most food and supplies. He also remembered that something really special and important would show up here when everything went crazy. That was why so many people tried to come to this villa. And sadly, this is the place where he died in the last life, and he saw people doing things even worse than monsters. So, Gavin thought, if he died here before, maybe this villa was the start of his new life. Back to business. The real estate agent told our protagonist that the owner did not want to rent the villa. Yet Gavin was stubborn. He offered double the rent, then 5 times, and finally 10 times the normal rent. He even said he could pay for the first month right now. When the agent heard 10 times the rent, her eyes started shining like she just won the lottery. She swore she would get the villa for Gavin, even if she had to call the owner dad and get on her knees. Okay, that was some serious dedication. Gavin said he had one condition. He wanted to fix up and completely redecorate the house. The agent said there was no problem because the place was pretty empty anyway. She was already getting out her phone to call the owner. When they left the office, Gavin and Yaniel walked outside and saw Xenia, that bitch again, and her mother. It looked like Xenia's mom was giving her a hard time, probably about Zach, that rich man. Yaniel spotted her and wondered why she was there. Gavin explained that it was easy. Zach owned a villa in this fancy community. Then things got awkward fast. Xenia saw Gavin and stormed over, looking furious. She accused him of stalking her, saying that she hadn't even punished him for last time yet. Her mom jumped in and called Gavin a simp, which was just rude. She told him that her daughter would never like a poor student like him and said that nothing he did would ever work. Dude, that was cold. Like mom and daughter, both of them are bitches. Thank God Gavin shot back and asked if they were idiots, because he had not been following them at all. Xenia's mom lost her temper. She called Gavin rude and shouted about college students having no manners these days. She threatened to tell the school about him, get him kicked out, call the cops, and even get him thrown in jail. She was going wild, for real. Our protagonist replied that if she was feeling like this, she might as well just give him the death penalty, since renting a house had nothing to do with her or stalking Xenia. Bro, this kid had no filter. The bitch started laughing at him. She mocked Gavin and said she knew he didn't have any money. She thought there was no way he could afford even one room in a villa like this, because the rent was at least $20,000 a month, and he probably had only a couple hundred to his name. Suddenly, the estate agent was grinning like she just won the lottery. She told Gavin that everything was settled and that the rent would be $25,000 a month. Xenia and her mother just stared at Gavin in total shock. It was like they could not even believe what they were hearing. In her head, Xenia's mom was freaking out and wondering if that poor kid actually managed to rent a villa at this fancy place. Meanwhile, Xenia acted like a queen. She told our boy that he must have rented the villa just to hang around her. She said it was useless and thought he had no chance, so he should just give up. Wow. Please slap her again, I beg you, Gavin. Well, Yaniel thought to himself that Xenia was a next-level, delusional slut. Gavin, on the other hand, thought the whole thing was more than just dumb, it was straight-up insane. Xenia's mom told her daughter to forget about Gavin. Even if he rented a villa, she said, it was only for $25,000 a month, and that was not enough for someone to become one of her daughter's simps. Then Xenia and her mom turned and walked away, acting like they did not care at all. The real estate agent talked business with Gavin and reminded him that, since he wanted to pay 10 times the normal rent, the first month would actually cost $250,000. Gavin just said he would pay right now, like it was nothing. At that moment, Xenia and her mom suddenly stopped and spun around so fast, you'd think they saw a ghost. They could not believe what they just heard. The bitch said Gavin was just putting on a show, and nobody was dumb enough to spend 10 times the rent for a house. She thought there was no way that poor orphan student could have that much cash. But Gavin was ready to blow everyone's mind. He held up his phone and showed the payment confirmation, 250 grand sent. Xenia and her mom just stood there like statues. Not a word, not a blink. That was a slap to the face, bro. The real estate agent was over the moon and told Gavin the villa was his. She said he could redecorate it any way he wanted and handed him the keys. Gavin told Yaniel it was time to bounce, and they walked right past Xenia and her mom, who still looked frozen. Behind them, Xenia's mom was in total disbelief. She started wondering if maybe they were wrong about Gavin all along. Maybe he was secretly rich. But Xenia was just confused and annoyed. She was sure Gavin was an orphan and said she would ask her friends to find out the truth. Later, Gavin and Yaniel were walking through the city. Our boy asked his friend if he knew the boss of Heaven's Rainbow Decor, the biggest renovation company around. Yaniel said that since his dad worked in the same business, he knew him. Gavin was happy and said he needed Yaniel's dad to make an appointment so they could get the villa ready. Yaniel thought Gavin was nuts. He just paid 10 times the rent for an empty house and now wanted to renovate it himself? What kind of plan was that? Gavin said Yaniel should stop asking and just set up the meeting. He promised everything would become clear tonight. Yaniel then checked his phone and said the meeting was a go. His dad had pulled some strings, so even though the boss was busy, he was coming personally just to meet Gavin. Gavin was stoked and told Yaniel he would thank his dad by sending him a whole truck full of instant noodles. Yaniel freaked out and said that was the worst gift ever because his dad did not eat that junk. But our protagonist said not to worry. He joked that Yaniel's dad would love the noodles soon. Inside Heaven's Rainbow Decor's office, a secretary was telling some people to wait because the CEO was on the way. Xenia and her mom were also there, talking. The fuck? I don't know why this bitch always showed up on my screen. Anyway, her mom told her that Zach was paying for their renovation, so it had to look super nice. Xenia said not to worry. This company was the best in the city, so they came to the right place. Just then, Gavin and Yaniel walked in. The secretary asked if they had an appointment. Xenia noticed Gavin right away and jumped up from her chair. She was so angry, it was almost funny. She accused Gavin of following her everywhere, even all the way to the renovation company. She said that if he thought this would make her like him, he was crazy. Gavin could only think one thing in his head. For real, how could they keep running into these two crazy ladies again? It was almost like they just could not escape them. Yeah, bro, that's what I said. Please stop your author from writing shit about her. Anyway, Yaniel tried to chill things out. He told Xenia that Gavin was also there to do a renovation, so she needed to stop making drama. But the girl just smirked like she knew everything. She said there couldn't be anyone as dumb as Gavin. He was trying to renovate a house he didn't even own. Man, this girl really liked to roast people. Gavin ignored her and talked to the secretary. He said his name was Gavin Clark, and he had an appointment. The secretary got all businesslike and told him to wait a second. That made Xenia and her mom freeze. They couldn't believe Gavin was actually doing a real renovation. But Xenia still thought he was probably just pretending to be rich. That's when the main boss of Heaven's Rainbow Decor, Mr. Zhao, came out. Now things got interesting. He asked where his appointment was, and the secretary pointed over to Gavin. They thought Mr. Zhao was coming out just for them, because Zach was so important or whatever. Xenia's mom even bragged to Gavin, saying this showed how different their social status was. She said her daughter was special because the big boss cared about her, while Gavin could just stand and wait in the background. Xenia stepped up and tried to talk to Mr. Zhao first, acting all confident, but Mr. Zhao just looked at her like he was confused. He asked who was Gavin Clark. Xenia said her name, but Mr. Zhao told her to step aside if she wasn't Gavin. Dang, bro, that was awkward. Then Mr. Zhao walked right past the stunned girls. He went straight to Gavin with a big smile and acted super friendly. Mr. Zhao told our boy he didn't expect him to be so young, and then invited Gavin and Yaniel to come talk in his office. Xenia and her mother were left standing there like someone just took their cake away. Xenia's mom started whispering to her, asking how Gavin could get treated so well by Mr. Zhao. Xenia was embarrassed, so she tried to explain. She guessed that maybe it was because Yaniel's family was powerful, since they were pretty well off. She didn't want to believe Gavin could have any big connections by himself. Inside Mr. Zhao's office, the mood totally changed. Mr. Zhao wanted to know about Gavin's plans. He asked what kind of renovation Gavin wanted. Our protagonist told him he wanted to redo a whole villa. Mr. Zhao didn't seem impressed. He said that fixing up a villa was easy and cheap for their company. Some budget jobs were just 5 or 600,000, and even the expensive ones were 3 to 5 million. He really thought this was just a small project. He told Gavin his design director could take care of Gavin's villa, but our boy pushed back. He wanted Mr. Zhao, the boss, to handle the job personally. Mr. Zhao said he was usually way too busy for small stuff, he only messed with giant projects. But Gavin told him he was actually a big project. Mr. Zhao sighed and asked Gavin for his budget. Gavin just grinned and said he planned to spend at least 30 million. Bro, Mr. Zhao's eyes almost popped out of his head. He could not believe it. 30 million for a renovation? That was next level. Mr. Zhao almost could not believe his ears. He had to check that Gavin really meant 30 million for the renovation, not 3 million. Gavin confirmed it, calm as ever. Yep, 30 million, bro. Right then, one of the directors rushed in, thinking he was going to handle this VIP client. But Mr. Zhao didn't even let him start. He waved the guy away and said that he was taking care of this project personally. He told Gavin flat out that for 30 million, the dude could just buy a whole new villa. He had no idea what Gavin was planning to do with an old one for that much cash. Gavin pulled out his blueprints. These were no normal house plans. Nope. They looked insane. Mr. Zhao checked them and almost yelled in surprise. He asked if Gavin was trying to build a fortress or a war bunker. Gavin kept it cool. He said if the budget was not enough, he could add even more money. He told Mr. Zhao that in the whole province, only this company could make his insane project real. The only requirement was that they finished it all in just half a month. Mr. Zhao was shocked again. He said that was super tough, but then he listed all the crazy stuff on those plans. A special water system, super strong air conditioning for freezing temperatures, high-end air filters, and even steel walls as thick as a small car. He said the villa would be so secure, even a tank couldn't break in. He told Gavin that this wasn't a house. It was like a place for surviving the apocalypse. Gavin just told him to go with it and pretend the end of days was coming. He even said he could pay 20 million right now, add another 5 million extra, and give the rest of the money 3 days after the construction was done. That was some serious business. Mr. Zhao was totally fired up. He agreed to do it. He told our boy that he would put all of the company's muscle on the project, work day and night, and build that crazy safe house in just half a month. After the meeting, Gavin and Yaniel walked out of the building. Yaniel was still in shock. He thought this renovation plan was nuts. 35 million to fix up a villa that wasn't even theirs. He told Gavin he was totally insane. But Gavin said pretty soon, money was going to be as worthless as trash. He told Yaniel to go home and convince his dad to get ready too. Yaniel actually was more worried about where Gavin even got all this cash. After all, even if Gavin and Yaniel sold themselves, they would only get 10 million at best. He told our boy that, unless this mysterious apocalypse was actually real, they were both doomed for life. As they left, guess who popped up again? Yep, that bitch Xenia and her mom ran right over to our protagonist. Xenia was full of sass. She said Gavin just wanted attention and challenged him to tell them how much he had spent on the renovations. Gavin blew her off and said it was none of her business. He also told her he was not trying to impress her at all. Xenia's mom just laughed at him. She bragged that Xenia spent a whole million on their own renovation and threw shade at Gavin for being poor. She wanted to show off what real spending power looked like, but Yaniel could not hold back. He blurted out that Gavin's renovation cost 35 million. That blew everyone's mind. Xenia started laughing like it was the funniest joke she ever heard, saying that maybe she would believe 500,000 but no way 35 million. Xenia's mom thought this was just bragging gone wild and said, kids these days would say anything. Gavin then added a little spice. He told Xenia that if he really spent 35 million, then she should call him daddy. Xenia did not believe a word of it. She told him she already asked around and knew Gavin used to own only one house, and if he sold it, at most, he'd get 3 million. She thought Gavin was just acting out so he would not seem like a loser. Xenia's mom even doubled down. She promised out loud that if Gavin really spent 35 million, she would call him daddy too. That's when the secretary raced outside and handed Gavin the contract he left behind. Xenia's mom snatched it from her, ready to expose him in front of everyone. Then she started reading the contract. But once she saw the number on the page, her face went pale as a ghost. She was shaking all over. Xenia asked if the number was something small, but her mom could barely talk. She whispered in a trembling voice that, yes, it really was 35 million. The mom suddenly shouted that this document must be fake. Next to her, the secretary backed up Gavin, saying the contract was real for sure because their boss, Mr. Zhao, personally signed it. The secretary even warned Xenia's mom that if she kept throwing around fake rumors, the company might take her to court. Dang, nobody was playing today. Gavin just smiled and asked Xenia's mom to call him daddy, since they had both promised it. Xenia's mom lost it. She was so mad, she shouted that she was much older and would never do that. But bro, Gavin was done messing around. He suddenly slapped Xenia's mom hard across the face, sending her reeling. I mean, dude, that was intense, and I was super happy about it. Don't blame me. Xenia ran over, all panicked, to help her mom. Yaniel couldn't help himself. He said that slap was super satisfying and that the old lady kinda deserved it. Gavin just told his friend it was time to go. As they walked away, Xenia started screaming her head off at Gavin. She yelled that he was crazy. She would never forgive him for humiliating her mom like that, and she told him he'd regret it. But Gavin and Yaniel didn't even look back. That night, Gavin and Yaniel stood outside the villa that Gavin had just rented. Yaniel was confused. He didn't get why they were there again, especially so late. Our MC told him it was time to prove the apocalypse was coming. Yaniel, shivering with arms wrapped around himself, thought Gavin had to be losing his mind. And what the fuck? It was the middle of summer, but he was freezing. Why the weather was super weird. He was getting annoyed. He said they'd been waiting in the dark for 2 hours, and if nothing happened soon, he was out. Gavin just said it was almost time. Then, suddenly, a bright light streaked across the sky. Gavin said it was here. Yaniel just thought it was a shooting star, but our boy explained that before the real apocalypse started, there would be lots of warning signs like super cold nights and more shooting stars. These weren't normal. They were hints that the big end of the world event was coming. Before Yaniel could answer, he saw the shooting star coming right at them. He totally freaked out and started running, thinking the meteor was going to squash them both like bugs. Gavin, though, faced the meteor head-on and seemed super hyped about it. He explained that these shooting stars were actually special opportunities. Whoever grabbed them could awaken a superpower. He remembered that, in his past life, a bunch of these stars fell in the neighborhood before and after the apocalypse. Because of that, some people with crazy abilities ended up living here, and that's what made the villa area turn into a survivor base in the future. Yaniel kept yelling for Gavin to run and shut the bullshit, but Gavin just stood there. Suddenly, as the meteor kept coming closer, our boy ran to it. Looking at how the meteor hit Gavin, Yaniel was sure his friend had just been crushed to death by a giant rock. But, surprise, the light faded, and Gavin was floating in the air like some superhero. he was surrounded by buzzing golden energy. Gavin found out, right then, that his skill was having his body's strength boosted by 5 times. It didn't sound like the craziest power for a doomsday, but it was definitely enough for now. He then floated down and landed on the ground as the golden light faded. Yaniel stared at him, totally stunned. Gavin asked if he believed him now. Yaniel just stuttered and wondered how Gavin had survived. Our boy told him that not only was he fine, but now he had super strength. Yaniel didn't believe it. He said Gavin didn't look different at all. So Gavin just reached over with one hand, picked Yaniel up, who weighed over 200 pounds, and held him in the air like he was a backpack. Yaniel freaked out, flailing and shouting. He could not believe a huge dude like himself was picked up with just one hand. Bro, the story keeps getting better. I like how we have superpowers now. Anyway, Yaniel then asked Gavin what he was even doing. But then, with a big happy grin, Gavin jumped off the roof. He was still holding Yaniel. Dude, what was he thinking? Of course, Yaniel screamed as they fell, and he told his friend not to throw his life away. It was totally insane. But when they landed, bam! There was a big shockwave on the pavement, but guess what? Both of them were totally fine. Not even a scratch, bro. Yaniel kept his eyes shut, but then he realized he was okay. He was so surprised, and he thought that was crazy. Gavin just smirked at him, basically saying that Yaniel had to believe him now. Yaniel said he believed Gavin for real this time. After all, Gavin had jumped from 10 meters up and didn't even get hurt. That was impossible for a normal person, but his friend made it look easy. Meanwhile, over at Zach's villa, things were getting messy. Xenia and her mother were looking out the window. Xenia's mom asked what Xenia was seeing, and Xenia told her that she saw something like a shooting star. She said the thing landed close to the house where Gavin was living, but Xenia's mom was not impressed. She said that nothing was special about a shooting star, and she even joked that it would be better if the star smacked Gavin on the head. That way, she wouldn't have to see him every day and get annoyed. Xenia gave a sneaky smile and told her mom not to worry. She said Zach was coming back soon, and their problems with Gavin were not finished yet. She said if Zach found out Gavin was living here, things were going to get rough for him. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Xenia's mother answered, and there was Zach. He had just come back, and Xenia's mom called him Young Master Zach. Zach wanted to know where Xenia was. Suddenly, the bitch called out, saying she was over there. Zach walked over to her, and he looked super greedy. He told her to hurry up and shower because he said he was feeling super pent up from the last few days. Then, out of nowhere, he slapped Xenia's ass. It was pretty awkward because Xenia's mom was still standing there. She tried to speak up, but Zach just got annoyed and asked her why she was still there. He told her to go boil some water. Xenia told Zach not to rush and that she had some news for him. She said Gavin had moved into the neighborhood too. Zach got really mad when he heard this. He could not believe that crazy dude would even show his face nearby. Xenia's mom jumped in and told Zach that Gavin only came here to get close to Xenia and that Zach had to get rid of him. Zach nodded and said he would call someone right now. He wanted Gavin to seriously regret ever messing with him. Wow, drama alert. Meanwhile, in the boxing club, the boxing king was in the ring, and he was big and scary, but the Mohawk is so funny. Zach called him on the phone. He called the Mohawk man and told him he had a job. Take care of someone, and he would get 200,000 for it. That was a lot of money, just to mess someone up. That man talked on his own phone and said he understood. He promised Zach that he would get back to him in 2 hours. He then finished the call and looked at his opponent. He said he had a job to do and he didn't want to mess around anymore. But his opponent got super angry. How dare a rookie mock him? He told the Mohawk man that he was about to lose, and he seemed super confident. But suddenly, the Mohawk man, by the way his name is Biao, threw a punch, and boom. It hit the opponent so fast and hard that the opponent fell straight to the mat, knocked out in one punch, blood everywhere, bro. People in the crowd just went nuts. They could not believe what they saw. Everyone started talking about it. They asked if Biao was really a rookie because they had never seen someone beat the underground boxing champ in one hit. People were saying that maybe Biao was going to be the new king of underground boxing. Back to our boy, now Gavin and Yaniel were just chilling inside their empty villa. The whole place had no furniture, just hard floor and silence. Both of them were drinking canned sodas, trying to relax after all the wild rooftop stuff earlier. Gavin started talking about how this boring setup was actually kind of like what it would feel during the start of the Ice Age apocalypse. For real, he was saying that soon it was going to get way worse for everybody. Yaniel thought that was pretty harsh and kind of sad. He said he never expected that humanity would ever be in such big trouble. But what could he do, right? Gavin then asked Yaniel if he knew what he wanted to do now, since things were getting so serious. Yaniel was feeling super lost, so he told his friend he would listen to whatever he said. He decided he would just do anything Gavin wanted. So our protagonist told him the plan was simple. Yaniel had to go back home and sell out his own father first. Oof, that was cold. Yaniel looked kind of nervous about this. He admitted that his dad had a lot of money and things, but he said it would be impossible to convince his dad to believe in some coming apocalypse. He thought his dad would just say he was nuts. But Gavin was super clear. He said that in just half a month, money would mean nothing, like totally worthless paper. The only important thing would be supplies and survival gear. He said if Yaniel's dad was the richest guy in the world, it wouldn't even help him. Yaniel looked like he was about to go for it anyway, even if it meant his dad going crazy or even beating him up. He said he was ready to bankrupt the family to get supplies and was about to leave right then and there. But suddenly, Gavin raised his hand and just told him to stop talking. Something felt wrong. Yaniel asked what was going on, but Gavin said he felt there were people outside, right now, surrounding the villa. Oh snap! Outside, things were looking rough. Biao, that scary red mohawk boxer from before, was out there leading a whole gang of tough-looking dudes. One of them was even holding a giant sledgehammer. He told Biao the whole house was surrounded and there was no way Gavin and Yaniel could run. Biao looked happy about that and ordered them to smash down the door. The thug tried to hit the front door with the sledgehammer, but suddenly the door opened itself and that thug was knocked over. Gavin and Yaniel walked over nonchalantly and faced these gangsters head-on. Gavin wanted to know who these people even were. Biao noticed that Gavin had spotted them, and he wondered if he was some kind of trained fighter too. Gavin recognized Biao right away and called him by name, Duan Hubiao. Biao was kind of surprised Gavin knew him, but here's the thing. Gavin explained in his mind that Biao was kind of famous after the apocalypse started. This guy got some pretty good luck and power in those early days. He was stronger than most folks, but at least he still had a bit of a conscience, unlike a lot of crazy people out there. Biao got right to the point. He said Zach sent him to beat Gavin up. He tried to sound nice about it, saying that if Gavin just gave up and lay down, he would only break a few bones, and he might have to stay in bed for half a year. Can you believe that? Some offer. But Gavin just smirked. He said he wouldn't make it hard for Biao either. He told him to just get lost. That made Biao totally mad, and he wanted to show Gavin just who was boss. Biao rushed at him with a huge punch aimed right at his head. But our boy was way too fast. He dodged it like it was nothing, thinking that Biao was too slow. Biao couldn't believe it and tried again with another big punch. But Gavin just blocked it like a pro and punched Biao super fast in the side. Bang! Biao hit the ground hard, even though he was supposed to be the champion underground fighter. The other thugs could not believe what they just saw. One of them said their boss, Biao, was knocked down by Gavin. Another guy said something had to be up because Biao had just beaten the underground boxing champ in one punch. There had to be something weird about Gavin. Gavin asked Biao if he was ready to give up now, but Biao wasn't going to quit that easy. He struggled to his feet and said there was no one in the world who could make him surrender. But before Biao could even finish getting up, Gavin smashed him again with another punch, sending him back down hard. Gavin was standing over him looking like a total boss. He wanted to know if Biao was ready to give up. But Biao said there was no way he would ever surrender. He thought it was crazy that he couldn't fight back, but he still refused to admit defeat. That's some serious tough guy energy. But our protagonist said it would actually be boring if Biao quit that easily. He then told him that if Biao did one thing for him, he could give him a way to save his sister. Now that got Biao's attention. He jumped up so fast and just grabbed Gavin's leg. He was super shocked that Gavin even knew his sister was sick. For a second, it flashed back to when Biao was in the hospital. He was sitting by his sick sister's bed, probably worried sick about her. Gavin said that not only did he know the sister was sick, but he also knew it was a really bad illness that couldn't be cured. He knew that Biao only fought in dangerous underground matches for money to help pay for her treatment. That was a hard life, bro. Biao was totally stunned. He realized Gavin knew everything about him, even deep secrets. He asked if Gavin could really save his sister. Gavin told him he was the only person who had any idea how to do it. He said it was Biao's choice to believe him or not. This time, Biao decided to trust him. He said that Gavin already beat him, so now he believed him. He was ready to do whatever Gavin needed. So our boy told him to go find Zach and give him the beating of his life, so bad that Zach would have to stay in bed for 2 weeks. He said to make Zach cough up as much money as possible. The more, the better. Biao took a moment, but then he agreed. He told his crew to follow him, and together they took off, on a mission for payback. One of the thugs asked if Biao really believed what Gavin said. Biao answered that he had to believe it, because he would do anything for even a small chance to help his sister. He said it was time for business. Meanwhile, Zach and his shitty act are now doing an inappropriate thing with the bitch Xenia. He was sure Gavin should be in the hospital by now. Xenia said he was terrible, and they seemed to be having a moment. But suddenly there was a loud banging on the door. Xenia's mom got mad and wanted to know who the heck was interrupting him in the middle of the night. But as soon as she opened the door, Biao and his tough crew were right there. Biao didn't waste any time. He pushed the mom aside like she was nothing and told her to get out of the way. Xenia's mom tried to scold him, but Biao just smacked her and she stumbled away. Yep, Biao was not kidding tonight. Zach saw Biao and thought he was just there to finish the job. He tried to play cool, saying he had 200,000 ready for him and that he didn't need to show up in person. But Biao wasn't there for the cash at all. He punched Zach in the stomach so hard that Zach doubled over in pain. Xenia looked super shocked and was freaking out. Zach started yelling, asking why Biao was hitting him, but Biao just ignored him and told his crew to get Zach. All the thugs surrounded Zack and started beating him down. Zack tried to beg for mercy, saying he would give them any money they wanted. He even threatened Biao, saying that his family would hunt him down if they kept this up, but the punches kept flying. Biao finally told everyone to stop. One of the thugs thought this was just Zack getting what he deserved. Then Biao said something wild. He told the thugs that Big Bro Clark said to hang Zack up and beat him some more, just string him up like a punching bag. Zack was terrified, and he started freaking out again, asking who this Big Bro Clark was and if it was actually Gavin. Man, Zack was really wishing he never messed with Gavin, and Biao's crew was only getting started. Bro, this night was absolutely wild. So much chaos. After that, oh man, things were not looking good for Zack. He was hanging upside down like a bat, tied up with a bunch of ropes. He said that the only money he could get right now was 10 million, and if he wanted more, he would need the vast dragon group's approval. He even said that he had to go there himself if he wanted to get more money. But then Biao just shut him up and told him to transfer those 10 million bucks right now. Yeah, please make this dude poor. At the same time, over at Gavin's villa, things were a bit more chill. Yaniel was checking his phone and saw a message from their class group chat. The counselor had sent a message about some practical training that was happening tomorrow. He asked Gavin if he was going to that training. At first, our boy said that he wasn't going, but then Yaniel told him it was happening near the northern new city. Suddenly, Gavin changed his mind and said that he was going to go because he wanted to check out that place anyway. Then, his phone rang. He answered it and learned that it was Biao calling. Biao told him that Zack had just given up 10 million, and he had already sent that money to Gavin. The next day, our protagonist was outside at a lottery betting station. He remembered that he hadn't checked his lottery ticket yet. He thought that if he won, he could buy a lot of supplies. That sounded awesome, right? But when he checked the ticket, he was shocked. He knew all the numbers from his past life, so how did he not win now? He started thinking that maybe it was the butterfly effect, but he didn't believe anything else had changed. There was only one answer. He thought the lottery company must be sketchy. Yeah, he had to find another way to make big money. No easy lottery wins for this guy, because that company is rigged. Later, our boy back at school, all the students were standing near a bus, getting ready for their practical training trip. Some students were complaining. One of them said that the training was starting way too soon, and they hadn't enjoyed college life enough yet. Another student said that finance jobs weren't great these days, so they hoped they would get assigned to a good department during the training. Then, Sharon and Jolene saw Gavin coming to the bus. Jolene teased Gavin and asked if he really dared to show his face. Gavin just acted cool and said that, of course he did. Sharon wanted to know why Gavin had run out on the bill last time and told him to explain himself. Jolene got more dramatic and said that they would have to work for a whole month to pay off that 20,000 Gavin owed. Our boy just brushed it off and acted like it wasn't his problem. But then, Jolene tried to act all sweet and asked Gavin to help them pay it back. She even hinted that they would do anything for him. Gavin joked back and said that, if that was true, then first they should lend him 40,000. That was savage, bro. He then just walked away, and Sharon yelled at him to just wait and see. Next, Yaniel finally showed up. He looked tired, and his eyes were all puffy. Our MC asked what happened to his eyes. Yaniel said that it was from crying. He tried to tell his dad about the apocalypse, but he knew just talking wouldn't be enough. So, he decided to cry a lot to get his dad's attention. So, Gavin asked if it worked. Yaniel said it totally didn't work. He cried for 2 hours, but his dad ignored him. In the end, his dad got annoyed and picked up a thick steel rod and hit him with it. That hurt so much that Yaniel started crying again. Our boy told his friend not to feel too bad. He said that it took Yaniel a few days to accept the truth about the apocalypse, so of course it would take time for his dad too. Finally, their counselor, Chi Changdong, called out to all the students. He told everyone to get on the bus because they were leaving now. This trip was about to get started, and who knew what crazy stuff would happen next? Inside the bus, Yaniel started complaining right away. He told Gavin that he ate something super salty the night before, and now he was super thirsty. But guess what? Gavin told him that he was too needy and he didn't bring any water. But then, something nice happened. Chi Kui, who was sitting right beside them, leaned over and offered a bottle of water. That was really sweet of her. She told our boy that she brought some water and handed it over. Gavin thanked her and tossed the bottle to Yaniel, telling him to just take it already. Chi Kui started talking to Gavin again. She said that she heard about what happened between him and Xenia. She hoped he would not be too sad and that he could move on. But Gavin actually told her not to worry because he was not sad at all. Yeah, that bitch is not worth it. Then, Chi Kui brought up something else. She said that she heard Xenia scammed Gavin out of a lot of money. She even offered to give him some money if he needed it. That girl was really kind. But our protagonist just shook his head. He said that he couldn't take her money because her family was not rich, and all that money she saved must have been really hard to get. No way was he going to take it. Respect, bro. Yaniel saw all this and started whispering to Gavin. He teased him and said that Chi Kui was totally into him. He even asked why Gavin didn't do something about it. Gavin just told Yaniel to shut up and drink his water. Classic move. Soon, the bus pulled up to a huge fancy office building. Everyone started getting excited and a little nervous. Their counselor, Chi Changdong, called out to the students. He told them that they had arrived and to get off the bus in an orderly way. He said that he was about to assign the internship positions. Some students started whispering. One of them said that there were 3 types of internships. The best ones were on the 3rd floor, where you could work on important stuff. The 2nd floor jobs were easy and chill, but you wouldn't learn much. The worst ones were on the 1st floor, where you just did security or ran errands. Basically, 1st floor was for the goons and free labor. Ouch. Then, Chi Changdong started reading off names for the 3rd floor. He called out Wang Da, Sharon, and Jolene. Sharon and Jolene got all smug, like they just won a prize or something. Sharon told Jolene that they really were going to the 3rd floor, and said that Hunter always made things happen. Jolene asked about some promise they made to Hunter, and Sharon started eyeing Chi Kui. She thought Chi Kui looked good for their plan. She said that Chi Kui was from the countryside, had no connections, and probably had never dated anyone and was still a virgin. So Sharon decided they should pick her for whatever weird thing they promised. Hunter. Damn, I can't. These 2 bitch are really annoying me, at the same level as Xenia. Next, Chi Changdong started reading the names for the 2nd floor, but Yaniel and Gavin didn't hear their names. Yaniel was not happy. He said that they didn't even make it to the 2nd floor. Dang. Talk about bad luck. Finally, Chi Changdong announced the last group. He said that Yaniel, Gavin, and Chi Kui would all be on the 1st floor for their internships. Chi Kui looked super sad and said that she was afraid they would not learn anything on the 1st floor. Other students started laughing at them. One student joked that he couldn't believe those 3 got stuck on the 1st floor. Another said that Gavin and Chi Kui belonged there, but wondered why Yaniel, who was usually rich, was on the 1st floor too. Gavin was not having it. He asked the counselor what was up with the assignments. Why did they get stuck on the 1st floor? The counselor said that the positions were decided by the school and the company together, and he said that everything was fair and just. He told him that he shouldn't complain, because he could do well anywhere, but Gavin didn't believe it. He said that people always talked about honesty, but if Chi Changdong was lying about this, then he was a real jerk. Chi Changdong got mad and asked our boy how he dared to speak like that. The counselor tried to defend himself and said that even Yaniel, who was a rich kid, was on the 1st floor too. Yaniel lost it, bro. He started yelling and said that the only reason he was on the 1st floor was because the counselor tried to get money from his dad. The counselor asked his dad to pay for a 3rd floor spot, but his dad refused. He said that if the counselor was being fake, he should just stop pretending. He then pulled out his phone and said he had a recording to prove it. Whoa! Things were heating up! Wang Da tried to defend the counselor. He told Gavin and the others that they were out of line and they should respect their teachers. Sharon jumped in too and said that the counselor worked really hard to set up these internships and that Gavin and his friends were just being ungrateful and picky. Jolene added that people like Gavin, Yaniel, and Chi Kui didn't even deserve internships at all. Hearing that, Gavin got super annoyed. He told them that they should just go away. Wang Da got super mad and said that Gavin must have gone crazy after being dumped by Xenia, and he called him a simp. But then, bam! Gavin just punched Wang Da right in the face. That was savage. Wang Da started yelling and said that Gavin hit him first. But when he tried to fight back, our boy caught his fist like it was nothing. He could not believe how strong Gavin was. Then Gavin slapped him twice, really hard. Dude, Wang Da almost fell over. He told him again to leave, but Wang Da looked scared now. He turned to the counselor and said that Gavin was acting crazy, but Gavin didn't stop. He moved closer and asked if Wang Da didn't hear him. Then, boom. Another punch, and that dude ended up on the ground. The counselor tried to stop him. He ordered him to stop and apologize, but our savage MC was done listening. He said that the counselor didn't act like a real teacher. Then, out of nowhere, he smacked the counselor so hard that he spun in the air and fell to the ground. So satisfying. Yaniel saw this and started laughing. He said that it was awesome to see the counselor get hit. Some students were freaking out. They couldn't believe that Gavin even dared to hit a teacher. That was insane. The counselor got back up, holding his face. He looked really angry. He told our boy that he was in huge trouble now and that he was officially kicked out of the internship program. He said that Gavin would never get an internship again, but Gavin just acted like he didn't care at all. He said that if the counselor kept talking, he would hit him again. And guess what? He punched the counselor one more time and knocked him out cold. Bro, that was next level. After that, he told Yaniel it was time to go. Yet Yaniel asked him what they would do about Chi Kui. Gavin called out to her and told her to come with them. She looked confused and wasn't sure what to do. Right then, Sharon and Jolene walked over to the counselor. Sharon told the counselor that Chi Kui was the only one left on the 1st floor, and it wasn't good for a girl to be there alone. She suggested that she should join her and Jolene so they could look after her. The counselor agreed and said he didn't care and that he was going to find the principal to get Gavin expelled for real. Sharon went to Chi Kui Kui and said that she should come to the 3rd floor with them. She said that if Chi Kui Kui stayed with Gavin, she might not even find a job after graduation. She then took her away, and Chi Kui Kui looked like she didn't really want to go but followed them anyway. Gavin then told her that she should go and that if anything happened, she had to call him. Chi Kui Kui said that she would, and she told our boy to be careful too. After all the drama, our protagonist said to Yaniel that it was time to take care of business. So, what were they going to do now? The scene switched to the provincial logistics park. This place was huge, with tons of warehouses and big shipping trucks everywhere. Yaniel said this was the biggest logistics park in the whole province. All the goods for the big supermarkets came from here every day. He asked Gavin if he wanted to go after the supplies in this place, but he thought it was impossible. Even though there were lots of supplies here, there was no way they could get in and take anything. He joked that they would have to steal it, but even that wouldn't work. Gavin saw something and told Yaniel to check it out. There was a place where people were getting hired. A bunch of women were standing in line. Yeah, he got a nice idea. He then walked over and asked if they were hiring there. But damn, the boss told him that they were only hiring women, not men. Seriously, what a joke. Yaniel asked what they were supposed to do now, because they needed to get inside. Suddenly, Gavin got an idea. He told Yaniel to go back and find Chi Kui Kui. He wanted her to come and help them out. Meanwhile, at the internship office, Sharon and Jolene were talking. Jolene got a call from Hunter, who told them to hurry up. It sounded creepy, because he said that Mr. Jiang needed a girl right now, and she had to be a virgin. Like, what the heck, bro? That was super sketchy. She said they should go and check if Chi Kui Kui was a virgin. So, they walked over to her desk. Chi Kui Kui was sitting there, working hard, and she seemed really happy. She told them that she had learned so much at this job, and she thanked them. Sharon acted nice and said it was nothing, because they were classmates, and that's just what friends did. But then she got weird. She asked Chi Kui Kui if she ever had a boyfriend. Chi Kui Kui got a little embarrassed and said, no, she never did. But she wanted to know why they were asking. Jolene said that was perfect, and then she and Sharon started talking about introducing her to a boyfriend. Chi Kui Kui said thank you, but she just wanted to work and make some money. She didn't care about boys. Sharon instantly told her that she couldn't make much money just by working. She said that if Chi Kui Kui got a rich boyfriend, even a little bit of money from him would be more than she could earn in years. But our best girl, Chi Kui Kui, said she really didn't need that. She would rather just keep working. But Jolene and Sharon didn't take no for an answer. They told her to just meet the guy, and if she didn't like him, she could refuse. Dude, you could already tell this was a setup. Next, they dragged her into a private office. Chi Kui Kui was already freaking out. She said again that she didn't want to date anyone, but it was too late. She was already in the room. Jolene told her not to worry, because Mr. Jiang was a really nice person. She then called out to Mr. Jiang and said they brought a woman for him. Mr. Jiang was sitting there, grinning like a total creep. In his head, he thought Hunter was really reliable for finding him a girl like this. He thought Chi Kui Kui looked sweet and innocent. Sharon told Chi Kui Kui to hurry up and say hi to Mr. Jiang, because he was the boyfriend they wanted to introduce her to. Hearing this nonsense, Chi Kui Kui was super shocked, and she could not believe what was going on. Mr. Jiang said that he was very happy with Sharon and Jolene. He told them to go to the finance office and get 30,000 yuan each. Jolene thanked him right away, and Sharon told him to take his time and have fun. Then they left, closing the door hard behind them. Man, that was cold. Chi Kui Kui started to panic and asked them not to leave her there, but Sharon and Jolene were already gone. Mr. Jiang got up and told her to come over. He said that if she did a good job, she could get even more money than the other girls. Of course, Chi Kui Kui tried to back away. She told him that she wasn't that kind of person, and she begged him to let her go. She even said she would call the police. But Mr. Jiang just started laughing. He told her that calling the police wouldn't help, because all the security guards were his friends. He asked who she was going to report him to. He said there was no way out. He told her that since she came into his office, she was not going to walk out safe. How scary was that? Dude, this guy was a total monster. But then, something happened. Chi Kui Kui's phone, which was lying on the floor after being smacked by that bald dude, started to ring. It was a call from Gavin. A minute later, Gavin looked at the screen and saw that it was Chi Kui Kui calling him. Bro. He was surprised, but he picked up, thinking maybe she just wanted to talk. He tried to ask if she was okay, but he started to feel that something was wrong right away. Back to the bald, ugly-ass dude. That creepy dude was standing there with Chi Kui Kui. He looked super evil and smashed her phone on the ground with his foot. The phone totally broke. Chi Kui Kui looked really scared, but she was also angry. Mr. Jiang told her to accept her fate. He said he liked girls who didn't have experience, and said if she listened to him, he would make her rich and successful. Dude, this guy was gross. But Chi Kui Kui was tough. She clenched her fists and said there was no way she would ever agree. She said she would rather die than let him hurt her. She grabbed a small plant from the table and held it up, ready to fight. This girl had guts. Back outside, Gavin was still holding his phone, but the call had already cut off. He called out for Chi Kui Kui one more time, but it was too late. The phone was dead. Gavin's face changed. He was not joking around anymore. He could feel that something really bad had happened to Chi Kui Kui. He decided he had to move fast. Anyway, things got scarier. Mr. Jiang tried to grab Chi Kui Kui. She yelled at him not to touch her and then swung the potted plant as hard as she could. Smack! She hit Mr. Jiang on the head. For a second, it looked like she might get away, but that bastard just got more angry. He told her she was asking for trouble and said he would make her suffer. Then he hit her hard and knocked her to the floor. Crap! It was a really bad scene. Then Gavin and Yanil burst into that place. Right away, a security guard jumped in front of them and said they couldn't go upstairs. The guard acted all tough and told them to stop, asking if they knew who the young master was. Gavin didn't even waste time on this guy. He shoved the guard to the side and said he was going to the third floor, because that's where Chi Kui Kui was. The other guard tried to stop them again, saying Mr. Jiang was busy and nobody could disturb him. But our MC just told the guard that he was the CEO of this place and told him to shut up. By the time the guard realized he was being trolled, Gavin and Yanil were already heading up, and the guard started shouting and reaching for his baton. On the third floor, Sharon and Jolene were just leaving the private room. They were laughing and talking about how Mr. Jiang must be having fun with Chi Kui Kui. They wanted to go get some bubble tea. But then they turned around, and boom! Gavin was standing right in front of them, looking super angry. Jolene saw him and freaked out. She asked what he was doing there. Our boy looked so scary and cold. He asked where Chi Kui Kui was, but his voice was low and dangerous. Sharon tried to act tough. She told Gavin that he wasn't an intern here and had no right to ask anything. She said this place wasn't for someone like him to make trouble. But Gavin was done with talking. He just slapped Sharon right across the face, super hard. She fell to the floor without even making a sound. Jolene tried to yell at him, but Gavin backhanded her so fast, her glasses flew off and she dropped too. Now he was standing over both of them, and they were knocked out cold. He didn't even look sorry. He was totally ice cold, and ready to do whatever it took to find Chi Kui Kui. After that, Sharon was standing there, her face bruised and her hand shaking. She pointed at a door and told Gavin that it was Mr. Jiang's office, and Chi Kui Kui was inside. She tried to warn him not to be reckless, because Mr. Jiang was a big shot and everyone in the place worked for him. But come on, like our boy was ever going to listen to that advice. Gavin just ignored her warning and kicked the door open like a boss. The sound was super loud. Inside, Mr. Jiang was grabbing Chi Kui Kui by the arm. Chi Kui Kui looked at Gavin and called for help. Mr. Jiang looked angry and shouted, asking who had let Gavin in and telling him to get out. But Gavin didn't care. He and Yanyel stormed right into the room. He told Mr. Jiang to let go of Chi Kui Kui. Mr. Jiang tried to act tough. He puffed out his chest and pointed at Gavin, trying to scare him. He asked if Gavin knew who he was or where he was standing. But bro, our protagonist was done with that crap. He grabbed that bastard's hand and twisted it so hard that everyone in the room heard the bone crack. Dude, that must have hurt like crazy. Mr. Jiang screamed, but Gavin wasn't finished. He kicked him right in the stomach, sending the guy flying across the room. This was total chaos. He shouted that the so-called security was useless and called him an animal. Bro, Gavin was going full savage mode. After that, he ran to Chi Kui Kui's side. His face got softer when he saw her. He asked if she was okay. Chi Kui Kui said that she was okay, but if Gavin had arrived any later, things might have turned out super bad for her. Just then, the lead security guard from the lobby ran in with a bunch of other guards. They all had batons and looked ready for a fight. The guard yelled, asking who was causing trouble. Mr. Jiang, now holding his broken wrist and coughing up blood, pointed at Gavin and Yaniel. He screamed for the guards to beat them up and even told them to beat them to death. That was insane. Out in the hallway, Sharon and Jolene were watching and looking pretty happy to see Gavin and Yaniel in trouble. Sharon said it served them right. And Jolene started talking about how Gavin was going to get what he deserved for hitting Mr. Jiang, and even for hitting her and Sharon. But before Jolene could even finish her sentence, the main security guard flew out of the room and crashed right into them. They both screamed and fell to the floor, totally shocked. Now the hallway was full of unconscious, groaning security guards. Bro, Gavin just wiped the floor with those guys. Back in the room, Gavin stood over that ugly man, who looked terrified. Mr. Jiang asked what Gavin wanted now. Gavin said that he was going to make sure Mr. Jiang never even thought about women again. Then, he stomped on Mr. Jiang's groin so hard that everyone could hear the crunch. The man screamed at the top of his lungs and collapsed, rolling around in pain. Ouch, that was brutal. Gavin then turned around and looked at Sharon and Jolene, who were totally freaked out now. His eyes looked super scary, like they were glowing red or something. Sharon tried to beg, saying that they were all classmates and they should just talk things out. Yet Gavin asked if being classmates was really how they treated Chi Kui Kui. He didn't even wait for an answer. He just hit them both, knocking them out cold. He said if they weren't still useful for something, he would have crippled them. He was ice cold, man. Then he led Chi Kui Kui and Yanyel out of the room, leaving all the chaos behind. After that, Sharon tried to help Mr. Jiang, who was still groaning on the floor. She said they would call the police, but Mr. Jiang got mad and shoved her away. He said calling the police was useless and told her to hurry up and get him to a hospital. Later, Mr. Jiang was seen talking on the phone, looking even more furious. He called someone from Ziwei Biotech and told them he wanted a kid to disappear forever. Finally, outside on a tree-lined street, Gavin, Chi Kui Kui, and Yaniel walked together. Chi Kui Kui thanked Gavin, but he said there was no need because they were all classmates, and asked her what she was going to do next. Chi Kui Kui looked really down and sad. She said that she had planned to find a job after finishing her internship here, but now her internship was gone. She told the guys that her future job chances looked super bad, and that sucked. But Gavin, man, he was such a bro. He told her that maybe he could find a job for her. Chi Kui Kui suddenly looked really hopeful, like a little sunshine came out, and she said that she was really happy if Gavin could help. Next, they returned to the large logistics park, to the hiring place. Chi Kui Kui asked if Gavin was really serious about her working there, because she thought he might be joking. But Gavin told her that he was totally serious. She looked at the job notice and got a little nervous. She said that the job was for a warehouse manager, and she actually studied finance in school. She didn't think this was the job for her. But Gavin told her that every job was important, and he said that anyone could do well anywhere if they tried. That was a nice thing to say, right? Then, the manager said that she would take the job or not, because they were about to close for the day. Gavin gently pushed Chi Kui Kui closer to the desk and told her to hurry up and sign up. So, Chi Kui Kui did it. She registered for the job, and as Gavin and Yanyel were leaving, she waved at them from behind the hiring desk. Our boy told her to work hard, and that they would come visit her in a few days. When they walked away from the building, Yaniel looked at Gavin like he couldn't believe what just happened. He thought it was crazy that a smart finance student from a really good university would take a job like a security guard. Our protagonist replied that it was because of her silly attitude that she could get this chance to get the job. Now, it was time to go back. But dude, things got wild fast. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of Gavin and pointed a gun right at his head. Not just one, but 3 more guys in suits and sunglasses showed up and surrounded them. These guys were definitely trouble. One of them told our boy not to move. Gavin realized that these were Mr. Lowe's men. Another one of the bad guys told him that his 3 days were up, and now their bodies belonged to Mr. Lowe. He said that they should come with them so their body parts could be removed. Okay, our boy was doomed. Gavin and Yaniel could only put their hands up. Yaniel started whispering to Gavin, asking if he was really going to go with these guys. After all, with Gavin's fighting skills, they could totally beat these 4 goons. But Gavin gave a confident smirk and replied that they should just go with them for now, because the real fun was about to start. Man, Gavin was just too cool. Later, they arrived at an old, abandoned factory in the suburbs. The white van stopped, and the bad guys told them to get out. Inside the big, empty factory, Yaniel looked around and got super nervous. He whispered again that this was an abandoned place in the middle of nowhere. One of Mr. Lowe's men told him to stop looking around and to keep moving. But Gavin didn't play around, bro. In a flash, he spun around, grabbed the man's gun, and twisted his arm hard. The man shouted, but before anyone knew what happened, he fired the gun and shot the man right in the head. The guy dropped to the floor, dead. The other 3 bad guys just froze and stared at our boy with their mouths open, like they couldn't believe it. Then, one of the thugs yelled that Gavin was asking for death, but our MC was just too fast. He pulled the trigger again and again. Bang! Bang! He shot all 3 goons, each with just 1 shot. They all dropped to the floor, and Yaniel just stood there, totally shocked. He thought that Gavin was insane, 1 shot for each guy, and he didn't miss at all. He realized that Gavin was a real sharpshooter. Gavin then took the empty magazine out of the pistol and threw a new, full one to Yaniel, like it was no big deal. Inside his head, he remembered that in his past life, during the apocalypse, he hadn't gotten any superpowers like some people. So he had to work really hard on his shooting skills, just to survive. Because of that, he became so good with guns that people really could call him a sharpshooter. But after our bro was holding the pistol, he was super nervous. He had sweat running down his forehead because, let's be real, holding a gun in real life is way scarier than in a video game. Yaniel said that he didn't know how to use the gun. Gavin nonchalantly asked if his friend played shooter games before, and Yaniel replied that he was a pro at that stuff. So, why not just act like he was in a game right now? Pretty funny, right? Then, the 2 of them looked outside into the factory yard. There was a big truck parked next to some shipping containers. Yaniel saw a logo on the truck and suddenly freaked out a little. He said that it was Z-Way Biotech. Dude, Z-Way Biotech wasn't just any company. He said that this was one of the top 3 bio corporations in the whole world. He wondered why a company that big would be here, in this sketchy place. Gavin explained that things were not simple at all. He remembered from his past life that, after the apocalypse started, Z-Way Biotech became super powerful. They used biotechnology to help people survive, and everyone called them heroes. But he said that now, it seemed like Z-Way Biotech wasn't as nice as everyone thought back then. There was something fishy going on. Suddenly, 2 guards wearing military uniforms came out and shouted to see who was there. But Gavin did not mess around. Before the guards could do anything, he shot them both, super fast. Both guards fell down, totally done for. He walked over and searched one of the guards' pockets. He pulled out an ID card. And it was true, the guard really worked for Z-Way Biotech. So now things were getting serious. Outside, in the factory yard, Mr. Lowe was having a meeting with Miss Pei, who was a big shot from Z-Way Biotech. Miss Pei told Mr. Lowe that Z-Way Biotech was super happy with the parts he gave them, and that the parts were very fresh. Ew. What did that even mean? Mr. Lowe replied that he was honored to help, and he said that 2 more fresh living parts would arrive soon to finish the set of 6. That sounded really bad. Then, he noticed Gavin and Yaniel coming out of the factory. He pointed at them and said that those 2 kids were the last 2 sets of parts. He asked Miss Pei if she was happy now. Miss Pei saw that Gavin and Yaniel were both holding guns, and she asked Mr. Lowe why they had weapons. Mr. Lowe was confused and didn't really answer. But things blew up right after that. Our protagonist didn't wait. He shot Mr. Lowe's leg. Mr. Lowe got totally shocked and yelled for his guys to catch them. Suddenly, bullets started flying everywhere, yet Gavin fired back with perfect aim, dropping a bunch of the bad guys with just 1 shot each. Miss Pei noticed how good Gavin's aim was. She thought it was insane. Our boy shoots like some kind of action hero. He started shooting with 2 pistols at once, taking out the rest of the thugs. He moved super fast, almost like a blur. Dang, this dude was a beast. Now Gavin stood right in front of Mr. Lowe and Miss Pei, and there were bodies everywhere. Mr. Lowe looked scared for the first time. He asked our MC what he wanted, but Gavin threw the question right back. He wanted to know what they wanted with all these parts. Mr. Lowe tried to act tough, saying that Gavin was just a kid and didn't deserve to know anything. Wrong choice. Our boy was done playing around. He shot Mr. Lowe right in the shoulder and made him drop to his knees, screaming in pain. He pointed the gun at Mr. Lowe's head and told him to say everything again because he was listening now. Mr. Lowe tried to act cool, even though he was hurt. He said that he wasn't scared and that Gavin didn't know who he was messing with. But Gavin just looked at Yaniel, totally calm, and told him to kill Mr. Lowe. Yaniel froze. He couldn't believe what he just heard. Gavin told him again to do it. Mr. Lowe started laughing like a crazy person, and he told Yaniel that he could go to hell. Our big bro was shaking. But then, bam. He shut his eyes tight and pulled the trigger. The bullet hit Mr. Lowe right in the forehead. Mr. Lowe looked shocked. Blood started running down his face, and then he fell down, dead. Yaniel just stood there, staring at Mr. Lowe's body. He was horrified. He kept thinking about what he just did. What the hell? He couldn't believe that he had killed someone. Anyway, looking at the shocked Miss Pei, Gavin had this cold smile on his face. He said that there was no point asking Mr. Lowe for answers since he was just trash. Miss Pei definitely knew way more. He called her out by name, and she was shocked. Miss Pei stared at him, angry and confused, and asked who he even was. Gavin teased her and said that if she needed to call him something, she could call him Daddy. Dang, this dude really knew how to push people's buttons. Miss Pei was furious. She told him not to be so rude. But our boy didn't care, not even a little bit. Suddenly, he shot her in the leg. The gun went off. Bam! Miss Pei screamed and fell down, clutching her leg. She started shouting that she was a top executive at Z-Way Biotech and asked if he understood what he had just done. She tried to threaten him with talk about consequences, but Gavin shot her in the other leg. That was cold, man. She collapsed even harder. Now, Gavin was standing over her, pointing his gun right at her. Miss Pei was terrified. She begged him not to shoot again and promised to tell him everything. She said that, for years, she had been working with Mr. Lowe. Mr. Lowe found live humans and gave their organs to Z-Way Biotech, and the company used those organs for experiments on people. That was super messed up. Our boy then wanted to know what kind of experiments she was talking about. Miss Pei said that they were doing research on human evolution and bioweapons. She told him he wouldn't even understand the details, and then she tried to beg for her life. She said she could show him everything, just as long as he didn't kill her. But suddenly, Gavin realized something even crazier. He thought about the Mantis war god, that giant monster from before. Gavin figured out that Z-Way Biotech had used people like these victims to create monsters like that. He was so shocked. In his mind, he always believed that Z-Way Biotech started messing with human bodies after the apocalypse. But now, he understood that they were doing this stuff even before everything went bad. And they didn't even care about who they hurt. Miss Pei freaked out. She said that the Mantis War God project was a huge secret, and she had no idea how Gavin found out. Meanwhile, not far away, Yaniel opened the back of a truck. He was just trying to help, but when he looked inside, he jumped back, horrified. It was full of human organs. Dude, that was just disgusting. Back with Miss Pei, she was trying to survive. She started promising Gavin anything she could think of. She said that they could work together. She told him that he was strong and skilled, and that if he joined Ziwei Biotech, he could get super rich and powerful. She promised him a life most people could only dream about. But our protagonist just said that he wasn't interested at all. Miss Pei kept begging, saying that she could still be useful somehow. So Gavin asked her how she could be useful, and Miss Pei started saying that she was very good with her mouth. What a weird thing to say at that moment. Nah bro, Gavin didn't even blink. He shot her right in the head. She dropped dead just like that. He looked at her, totally unimpressed, and joked to himself that if she couldn't stop a bullet, maybe she wasn't that good with her mouth after all. Brutal dude. Then he searched her body. He found a VIP keycard. Finally, this was the special key he needed to get into Ziwei Biotech's headquarters. That was going to come in handy. Now, let's jump ahead a bit. 3 days later, in a fancy office, Mr. Jiang was on the phone and he was really angry. He had just found out that something went wrong at Ziwei Biotech. He yelled at the person on the phone, demanding to know who was messing with his business. He was supposed to be one of Ziwei Biotech's investors, and he said that even small shareholders had the right to know what was happening. But the other person on the call wasn't telling him anything. He then slammed the phone down, totally mad, and right away called Hunter. He told Hunter that he needed to take care of Gavin, that little brat. Hunter said that he already had a grudge against Gavin, so he didn't mind helping out. He promised Mr. Jiang that he would send one of Gavin's hands in a couple days. Yeah, I bet you're the one getting slapped in the next minutes. Meanwhile, at his villa, our boy now talks with Mr. Zhao, who is the guy managing the renovation. He told him that the main part of the villa was now super strong, so tough that even a tank couldn't break in. He listed all the things they were going to finish soon, like the ventilation, water, and heating. He said they were working day and night and would be done in about a week. Gavin could only thank him for working so hard. Suddenly, Auntie Liu, a nosy lady from the residence committee, showed up. She introduced herself and told Gavin he needed to join the neighborhood chat group. So our boy agreed and scanned the QR code. But Auntie Liu wasn't done. She noticed a pile of cardboard boxes left over from the renovation and said that, since Gavin didn't need them, she wanted to take them. She asked if she could go into the house and grab them herself, even though our boy said it wasn't convenient. Auntie Liu didn't care. She said she would get a cart and take them anyway. Gavin tried to explain that they were in a hurry with the construction, but that aunt said he was stingy and asked what the big deal was. She even tried to push past him to get inside. Gavin finally got annoyed. He said that he would bring the boxes to her house in a week, but Auntie Liu said that wasn't good enough. She wanted the cardboard now, because she didn't trust anyone else not to take it first. She really wasn't going to give up. At this point, Gavin's face turned serious, and he told her to scram. Yes, bro, as he should. I don't get it. There's too much bitch in this manhua. That aunt is now yelling at him, asking why he is cursing at people. Damn, our MC didn't have time for her nonsense and told her to get lost, or he would smack her. The woman got even more mad. She said that young people had no respect these days and that, since they lived in the same neighborhood, he would get what he deserved one day. Honestly, Gavin probably thought she was just another annoying neighbor. At Zach's apartment, he was standing in front of a huge pile of cash on his table. He was talking to a group of tough guys, with One-Eyed Dragon as the leader. He handed over 500,000 in cash if they could make Gavin gone, like totally erased from the world. He didn't want any evidence left behind, just a clean job. One-Eyed Dragon acted all professional and said that it was their job to help since they worked for the vast dragon group. He said that Zach was too kind, but he would do the job. He promised that Gavin would disappear without a trace, like he never existed. Zach just watched his goons leave, grinning in a super evil way. He really wanted revenge. Later that night, outside a fancy hotel, One-Eyed Dragon and his guys were getting ready. One of the thugs told him that Gavin was staying in the top presidential suite. They said he must be really rich. One-Eyed Dragon told his crew to stay sharp, watch for any movement, and make sure Gavin didn't escape. Inside the hotel suite, our boy was chilling on the sofa with his feet up. He was thinking to himself that, since being reborn, everything had gone exactly how he wanted. He was planning something big, and the most important step was going to start in 3 days. He thought that the plan would only be perfect if this next part worked, but then he heard a noise outside. Uh-oh, trouble was coming. Outside in the hotel hallway, One-Eyed Dragon silently signaled his men as they got ready to go in. Gavin guessed that Zach's people were here. He decided to play along and let them try their luck. The thugs said they would go through the back door and not let Gavin get away. But then Gavin noticed something else. He realized that there was a second group of guys coming. Man, double trouble. The new group was led by a big thug with curly hair, one of Hunter's guys. One of the thugs said that it would be easy to deal with a student, but the curly-haired thug warned them not to be careless, since last time, their other crew got beat up by Gavin and even lost their money. That was super embarrassing for them. This time, they said they were ready. The curly-haired guy gave a nasty order. They had to beat Gavin to death, cut off one of his ears, and send it to Mr. Jiang. That was just crazy. Back in the suite, our ruthless MC smiled and flipped the light switch. He thought it was so lively tonight and said to himself that he was ready to have some fun. Now, both groups of thugs burst into the dark suite at the same time, coming from different doors. Yeah, the two gangs were facing each other in the dim light. It was like a standoff. Everyone was tense and ready to fight. One-eyed dragon saw someone in the dark, probably thought it was Gavin, and told him to stay still and not move. But the curly-haired thug barked back and ordered the dragon to stay still instead. The two leaders were glaring at each other, both trying to act tough. One-eyed dragon called him a brat and asked if he really wanted to be arrogant with him. But the curly-haired thug said that One-eyed dragon was using his lines and he should be the one acting tough. Man, these guys couldn't even agree on who was the real boss. One-eyed dragon just said that he wasn't getting away and that tonight he was dead. Bro, these thugs were so dumb. No wonder they are thugs, right? Finally, both leaders shouted to kill the other guy. Two whole gangs wanted Gavin dead. Suddenly, gunfire exploded everywhere. The thugs from both gangs started shooting at each other like crazy. Some guys were yelling in pain, and others were just screaming orders, thinking Gavin had brought in a whole army. One thug complained to his boss, One-eyed Dragon, that they were in trouble. And another thug from Hunter's team screamed that Gavin must have backup. It was total chaos, just flashes from the gunfire and people shouting. But where was Gavin? He was just chilling off to the side, totally calm, watching the madness with a little smirk on his face. He was thinking that he would just let these fools fight it out. Dude, Gavin was a real savage for that. After a minute, the shooting finally stopped. The room went quiet except for heavy breathing. One-eyed Dragon, the gang leader, was leaning against the door, looking like he'd just been through a tornado. His clothes were all ripped and he had bullet marks on him, but he was still standing. He thought he had finally beaten everyone. He then turned on the light. The place was trashed, bodies everywhere, both his men and the other gang's goons, just lying around. But guess what? Across the room, the curly-haired thug from Hunter's crew was still up, looking just as shocked and banged up as One-eyed Dragon himself. They stared at each other, super confused. The curly-haired thug asked why One-eyed Dragon was even there. One-eyed Dragon realized the other guy was Hunter's man from West City and wanted to know why he was at the suite too. Both of them wanted to kill Gavin, and both of them were left standing after wiping out each other's teams. That's what you call an epic fail, bro. They realized Gavin had totally tricked them, and they had just helped him out by taking down each other. Now, fast forward 3 days. The scene switched to the university campus. It was daytime, and Gavin was meeting up with Yaniel. He handed something to him. He told him that Chi Changdong, the counselor guy, had used his connections to get him expelled from school. Our protagonist heard this, but he didn't even care that much. He said that the apocalypse was coming soon, so a diploma was just useless paper. It didn't matter if this damned campus gave him a fancy doctorate degree. None of it meant anything anymore. But Yaniel said he still hated how Chi Changdong looked so smug and was bragging about it in the group chat. Gavin wasn't having any of that. He said he knew how to handle Chi Changdong. He then pulled out his phone and started typing in the class group chat. Things were about to get real spicy. Right away, Chi Changdong started talking trash in the chat. He called out everyone, saying Gavin Clark had started a fight and attacked a teacher, and now Principal Lee was going to expel him. Some other guy, Wang Da, jumped in too, saying Gavin deserved it and would always be a loser. Chi Changdong even taunted Gavin directly, saying he would never get over this and that his life was ruined. But Gavin? He just called him an idiot in front of everyone. Chi Changdong blew up, calling our boy an unemployed bum and warning him to just wait like, dude, so dramatic. But then, Gavin dropped the real bomb. He told the whole group that he wanted to report Chi Changdong for having a long-term affair with Principal Lee's wife. He said every time Principal Lee was away, Chi Changdong would meet her secretly at places like Changhui Hotel, the underground parking lot, and even the school rooftop. He said all of this was 100% true, and he was ready to take legal responsibility. He even told everyone to check the recent security camera footage if they didn't believe him. Yaniel was in shock. He stared at his phone, mouth wide open, and thought this was the wildest gossip ever. How did Gavin even know this? Well, in his past life, after the apocalypse broke out, Gavin and Chi Changdong were trapped together at school. With no rules left, Chi Changdong spilt all his secrets, including the affair. The group chat went nuts. Chi Changdong started freaking out, telling the admin to delete the group and warning everyone not to share Gavin's messages, or else he'd come after them. That dude was losing it. Yaniel thought it was hilarious. He wanted to post everything on the school forum to expose Chi Changdong even more, but our MC stopped him. He said they had important business to take care of first. Yaniel wanted to know what was so important. So Gavin said that Yaniel's dad still didn't believe him about everything going on and was almost ready to send him to a mental hospital. He promised that after they finished this important business, he would go with Yaniel to talk to his dad. He said Yaniel's dad would believe him then. Anyway, Gavin and Yaniel arrived in a neighborhood. The place was called an urban village, and Yaniel looked around, kind of surprised. He said that the houses here were actually pretty nice for this area, and he wondered what big thing could happen in a place like this. He just didn't know what was coming next. Inside one of these houses, things were not cool at all. There was a dude named Feng Kui, and bro, this guy was seriously messed up. He sat in a messy room full of empty bottles, looking super angry because his booze was gone. He slammed an empty bottle on the table, cursing that he was out of alcohol again. Yeah, you could already tell he was trouble. But the worst part? In the corner of the room, a young girl was sitting all alone, locked up in a metal cage. Dude, this was not okay. Feng Kui stared at the girl, and she was not scared. The man told her, with a lot of attitude, that if she kept staring, he would pluck her eyes out. Then, he threw an empty bottle at the cage bars, making a loud sound. Feng Kui got even more annoyed. He started calling her a money-losing brat, and blamed her for everything. He said her mom brought her into the marriage but didn't bring enough money, and now his money was all gone. He complained that before he sold the house, he would sell her first. He even said she was worth enough for at least a few more drinks. Bro, this guy was the worst. Suddenly, he opened the cage and pulled the girl out by her hair. The girl fought back, telling him to get away, but Feng Kui got even more cruel. He said her mother had refused to buy him booze and even tried to kick him out, so he beat her to death. Then, he warned the girl that if she didn't listen, she would end up just like her mom. Man, this was real evil. But the girl wasn't giving up. She bit Feng Kui's hand as hard as she could. He screamed in pain and got even madder. He shouted that she would go join her mother tonight, and he raised his hand, ready to hit her. But suddenly, bam! The front door flew open with a huge crash and knocked Feng Kui to the ground. Gavin and Yaniel were standing there in the doorway, looking like total superheroes. Feng Kui freaked out. He asked who they were, but in Gavin's head he started thinking about who Feng Kui really was. He remembered that in the time before the apocalypse, Feng Kui was actually a huge scumbag who later got some crazy hyperspace power. When the world got super cold and snowy, that bastard used his new power to help the government move supplies. People thought he was a national hero. But then, when the government sent him to help a small city, he just ran off with tons of food and left 1 million people to freeze and starve. He was a massive traitor, and in the end, he got eaten by an ice demon, and all the missing supplies just disappeared forever. But now, looking at a girl, he felt it was weird because he had never heard about this little girl before. Feng Kui got up, still holding the girl by her head. He looked at Gavin and said, "They must be human traffickers." He thought it was perfect timing, because he was almost about to kill the girl himself. He told them she was skinny but pretty, just like her mother, and if they wanted to take her, they would have to pay him extra. Otherwise, her foster father just couldn't let her go. Yeah, this guy was just sick. Yaniel was not having it. He shouted that Feng Kui was a beast, even worse than a pig or a dog. Feng Kui was surprised and tried to insult Yaniel back, saying he was just a human trafficker acting all high and mighty. He got super mad and picked up a bottle, ready to smash someone's skull in. But before he could do anything, Yaniel pulled out his gun. He aimed and fired. The bullet hit him right in the groin. Ouch! Feng Kui dropped the bottle, screamed, and fell to the floor. Wow, our best bro is now badass too. Even Gavin was impressed. Not bad at all. After that, Feng Kui was holding his groin and he looked super angry. He wanted to know who the hell this bastard came from. But our badass Yaniel just shut him up. He doesn't have mercy for a trash human. But before he could even get up, his young stepdaughter did something insane. She used a bottle and hit Feng Kui with it. Gavin and Yaniel just stared, totally shocked. Both of them could only think, what the heck was happening? Feng Kui was bleeding everywhere, from his leg and also from his head. He looked at the girl with so much hate. He started calling her names, but before he could finish, the girl smashed a broken bottle over his head again and again. Yeah, she was not playing around. That bastard got even angrier. He yelled that he would skin her alive, but the girl didn't care. She lifted the bloody, broken bottle again. Her eyes were wide. She looked crazy with anger and fear. Yaniel tried to stop her. He called her little sis and told her to stop, but Gavin said she should be left alone. She hit Feng Kui until that bastard really died. She was done with him, and it was brutal, dude. There was blood everywhere. Gavin looked at the dead guy and said that someone like Feng Kui deserved it. He really meant it. He then looked at the girl. She was standing there, her face all in the shadow, looking totally different. Anyway, our boy knew it was almost time. He was going to the rooftop. He told Yaniel to take the little girl, clean her up, and help her feel better. Yaniel agreed and went with the girl to get her washed up. Up on the rooftop, the night sky looked wild. Our protagonist stood there, staring up as streaks of light fell from the sky, like a huge meteor shower. He felt something big was about to happen. He thought this was the biggest chance before the end of the world. Then, a crazy, golden energy came down from the sky and wrapped around him. Suddenly, he floated up into the air, surrounded by bright, blinding light. Gavin felt like he had done it. Finally, he got this OP power. He then got into his new skill and found himself floating in a huge, empty place. It was blue and white everywhere, and the space was as big as dozens of football fields. He thought he could hide as many supplies as he wanted in there. That sounded awesome. But then his phone started buzzing. That noise brought him back to the real world. He looked down from the rooftop and saw something surprising. A police car had pulled up. A man was there, and he was being walked by 2 police officers. The man told the police that Feng Ke had brought him here, and he said that the bastard was going to sell him a girl. One of the police officers told all the other units to get ready and move in. Things were about to get heated. Back inside Feng Kue's house, the stepdaughter looked super different. She was cleaned up now and had new clothes. She just stood there, really quiet. Yaniel looked at Gavin and said that, now that the girl was cleaned up, she was actually pretty cute. But when our boy told him the authorities were outside, Yaniel totally panicked. He freaked out because the dead body was still inside with them, and they still had guns. Gavin told him not to panic. Well, before, they would have had to run. But now, things were different. He then did something super cool. He pointed toward Feng Kue's dead body, and a bright light covered it. Suddenly, the body just disappeared. Yaniel couldn't believe her eyes. Suddenly, the police busted right through the door. They knocked down the human trafficker who had led them there. One police officer shouted for everyone to freeze. He looked around the room with his gun out, probably expecting some crazy stuff. The police officer asked who was Feng Kue. But Gavin, Yaniel, and the girl were just standing there with their hands up, trying to look super calm. Gavin acted cool and said that nobody there was Feng Kue. He didn't know where that trash went. Then the officer wanted to know what they were doing in Feng Kue's house. Gavin smiled at him, like he wanted to look friendly, and put his arm around the girl. He told the officer that he was Gavin, and the girl was his distant cousin. He explained that he just came to check on her. Yaniel joined in and told the officer that she was Gavin's classmate and had come with him. The police officer seemed kind of suspicious, so he got down low and talked to the girl. He told her not to be afraid and asked her name. The girl said her name was Shishi, like a good kid. The officer then pointed at Gavin and asked if she knew him. Shishi looked at our boy, who gave her a little smile to remind her everything was okay. She told the officer that she did know Gavin, and she said that her mom had told her that Gavin was her cousin. The police officer looked happy with that answer. He stood up and said that if they got any information about Feng Kue, they should call him right away. Then the police and their whole squad left the house, and just like that, Gavin, Yaniel, and Shishi were alone again. That was close. Yaniel let out a big sigh of relief. He said that they had finally made it through that mess, and that they should hurry up and leave. He then looked at Shishi and started to worry. He asked his friend what would happen to Shishi now that Feng Kue was dead. He thought that a little girl like her would never survive out there by herself. Gavin looked down at Shishi with a gentle face. He asked her if she wanted to come with them. The girl nodded really fast. She definitely wanted to go. Yaniel said that they should take Shishi with them because it was just too much for a little girl to handle on her own. So, our boy directly asked the girl if she can make noodles. With pure joy, the girl smiled and said, "Of course. They were the ones who helped her before. She would do her best to return the favor." Our boy smiled, pretty satisfied with the answer, and said that they should all go together. So the 3 of them left Feng Kue's house as a team, with Shishi walking right in the middle, looking happy for once. Gavin said he was hungry and wanted to eat hot pot first. He asked Shishi if she could handle spicy food. Dude, they were about to go celebrate with some good food after all that madness. Time moves, and there's only just 3 days before the ice apocalypse comes. Gavin and Yaniel walked up a fancy path to a huge, rich-looking villa. It was Yaniel's dad's place. Yaniel told our boy that he was still a little scared. Honestly, who could blame him? Gavin tried to hype him up. He said that there was nothing to be scared of because the apocalypse was coming really soon. He told him that they had to convince his dad that day, no matter what. Inside the villa, Yaniel's dad, Pan Jingray, was just chilling in a big armchair, reading his newspaper. The place looked super expensive, but he did not look happy to see them. He called them little brats and asked if they had anything better to do. He said that they talked nonsense all day and told them to get out. Yaniel got nervous, but he still tried his best. He told his dad that everything Gavin said was true. He said that if he didn't listen now, the ice apocalypse would happen in 3 days and it would be too late. But Pan Jingray just got more annoyed. He told them to get out and said that they were interrupting his tea time. Then something hilarious happened. When he reached out for his teacup on the table, Gavin made a small hand gesture. Boom! The teacup disappeared into thin air because our boy used his hyperspace power. Pan Jingray stared at the empty table, looking totally confused. He asked where his tea went, and Gavin explained that he took it using his superpower. He really wanted to prove that he was telling the truth. But Pan Jingray just thought Gavin was playing tricks. He said that he had seen magic tricks before, and a kid like Gavin couldn't fool him. He didn't believe in any of it. Well, our protagonist was not done yet. Suddenly, he made the entire sofa disappear, right from under Pan Jingray. The dude fell to the floor with a loud thud. Ouch, that had to hurt. He called Pan Jingray Uncle Pan and asked if he believed him now. Pan Jingray got up fast, but he still acted all tough. He said that maybe the sofa could vanish, but the kids were still too immature to trick him. He said that he was Pan Jingray and he would not believe it. These adults, man, they could be so stubborn. Gavin decided to go even bigger. He made the table disappear too. And of course, Yaniel's dad fell again. Still, Pan Jingray still didn't want to give up. He told Gavin that if he could make everything in the room disappear, then he would believe him for real. Dude, Gavin wasn't playing. He made sure everything in the entire living room vanish. The fancy room was totally empty. Pan Jingray stood there all alone, looking like someone took his whole world away. There was just nothing. Yaniel saw it too and was amazed. He said that everything was really gone. Gavin then asked one more time if Pan Jingray would believe him now. And then, bam, Pan Jingray just slapped Yaniel across the face. Oof, that was rough. Yaniel looked at his dad and asked why he hit him. Yeah, that uncle realized this wasn't a dream because his son felt hurt. He believed it now. Bro, my poor dude Yaniel. There were only 2 days left before the ice apocalypse. Well, Gavin and Yaniel were not messing around. Yaniel checked his phone and almost lost it. He got a bank message that showed a huge amount of money was sent to his account. Dude, we were talking about 760 million. That was more money than most people could even dream about. He was so happy, and he quickly told Gavin that his dad had transferred over 700 million. Gavin told him that they needed to split up. He said that Yaniel should use the money to buy supplies, but this time, he had to focus on cold weather gear and anything they would need for the apocalypse. He also said that he would go check out the villa, and if he could, he would buy some weapons too. Now that was a smart plan. Inside Gavin's brand new villa, things were looking good. He met Mr. Zhao there, and he looked proud of his work. He told our boy that the whole place was now finished, just like he wanted. He asked Gavin if he liked it and if he was happy with the results. Our protagonist said that he was very satisfied and that Mr. Zhao had done a great job. Mr. Zhao smiled and said that this was the hardest project his company had ever done. He even said that if the apocalypse really came, anyone living in this villa could survive for the rest of their life, as long as they had enough supplies. Gavin promised that he would send the last payment soon, but as Mr. Zhao was about to leave, he stopped him. He told Mr. Zhao not to go out for the next 2 days and to buy lots of food and supplies for himself. Mr. Zhao was surprised and asked if a big storm was coming. Our protagonist said yes, and that it was going to be the biggest typhoon in 100 years. Mr. Zhao said that he would listen because he was tired anyway, and he could use some rest. Good move, Mr. Zhao. Not long after, a bunch of big delivery trucks pulled up in front of the villa. It was a crazy sight. So many boxes, you would think they were building a supermarket. Yaniel came back and shouted to Gavin that he had bought the best and most expensive stuff. Gavin told him to bring everything inside and that he would use his superpower to store the supplies in his special space. Workers started moving all the boxes into the house. While this was happening, Aunt Liu and her grandson stood nearby watching. She asked out loud why Gavin was buying so much stuff. She wondered if they were opening a supermarket at home. Her grandson was just thinking about food. He told his grandma that he wanted a lollipop, so she promised to get him one. Some people just didn't get it. Inside the villa, Yaniel ran up to Gavin looking super stressed. He said that he had a big problem. Our MC asked what happened. Yaniel explained that he just could not spend all the money, no matter how hard he tried. He hadn't even spent 100 million yet, and there was still a mountain of cash left. Man, poor guy couldn't even spend money fast enough. Gavin had an idea right away. He said that he would give Yaniel the addresses of some big granaries, the places where they kept huge piles of grain. He told him to go buy all the grain from those granaries. Yaniel agreed and ran off to do it, ready to spend even more money. Well, our boy thought to himself that in his past life, these granaries were taken over by bad guys. But this time, he wanted to stop those villains before they could do anything. Pretty soon, a delivery guy rushed up to him. He said that there was still one last batch of crossbows left to bring inside, but an old lady was blocking the way and wouldn't let them move the boxes. That sounded weird, so Gavin said they needed to check it out. At the villa gate, they saw the whole scene. Aunt Liu from before was now trying to open one of the boxes. Her grandson was jumping up and down, yelling that he wanted to eat whatever was inside right now. She told him not to worry because she was about to open it. But then Gavin walked up to them, looking cold and serious. He asked them what they were doing. Uh-oh. Someone was about to get caught messing where they shouldn't. Please, just slap her and her grandson or whatever. They really pissed me off. This lady just didn't know when to quit. She walked right up and said, since Gavin had bought so much stuff, her precious grandson wanted the candy box. She asked if Gavin minded sharing one with the kid, but our boy just stared at her, cold as ice, and let her know he definitely minded. Auntie Liu, though, acted like he was being the rude one. Bitch. She said young people these days were way too stingy, and that taking a lollipop should count as Gavin's apology for some mess that happened last time. She even looked at all the boxes and told him to just leave them at the door for her, and she'd bring a car to haul everything away. Can you believe this woman? Some people just need a slap to get it. Our protagonist, not having it, waved her off and told her to get lost. But Auntie Liu got even louder, yelling that she'd never seen anyone as stingy as him. She said she was the deputy director of the neighborhood committee and could take stuff from anyone's house. So why was it such a problem with him? She even claimed that he was ruining the neighborhood harmony by being so unreasonable. Like, come on, bitch. This is just embarrassing. While she was busy yelling, her grandson climbed up on the boxes and started digging through them. Suddenly he shouted that he got something. Turns out he'd snatched a lollipop while no one was looking. The little guy was jumping around on top of the boxes, calling Gavin a big dummy, and saying he was going to destroy him in the name of the monsters. Bro, what was wrong with this kid? Gavin saw what was going on and got pissed. He told Auntie Liu to get her grandson down right now, but the brat just kept running around, sticking his tongue out and making faces. Our boy had enough. He rolled up his sleeves like he was just about ready to drag that kid off himself. Auntie Liu suddenly switched to super bitchy mode, telling him to back off, but her grandson wasn't watching where he was going and tripped over the boxes. And oh man, right then, a bunch of crossbow bolts tumbled out and stabbed the kid right in the butt. He started screaming, "Yes, thank God." Our MC just smirked and said it served him right. Honestly, yeah, that kid asked for it. Auntie Liu freaked out, scooped up her crying grandson, and glared at Gavin like he was the devil himself. She shouted that he hurt her precious grandchild and demanded compensation, warning she'd be back to settle the score. Then she stormed off down the street with her grandson bawling on her back. Man, what a circus. Right after that, Xenia and her friend Yang Ziqing walked by. They saw all the boxes and started gossiping right away. Xenia wondered what Gavin was up to, buying so much stuff. Yang Ziqing just said she thought he was crazy, hoarding so much in this heat, and asked if he wasn't worried it would all go bad. Typical haters, honestly. Then she dragged Xenia off, saying Zach would take care of Gavin anyway, so they should just go to the salon. Like, sure, go get your hair done and keep dreaming. Now, cut to the logistics park on a sunny day. It was only one day before the ice apocalypse, and Yaniel was all hyped up because he'd finally managed to spend all that money. He bought out 5 entire granaries, way more grain than they could ever finish eating. Talk about going overboard. But hey, in the apocalypse, that's what you gotta do. Gavin said that before they picked up the grain, they needed to meet with Chi Kui Kui. Outside the logistics park, Gavin and Yaniel waited until Chi Kui Kui arrived, looking super happy. Gavin asked how work was going at the logistics park. She said it was fine and that she'd even been promoted to warehouse supervisor, but she asked how much longer she needed to stay there. Gavin told her she could leave tomorrow, which made her so happy she wanted to go quit right away. But our MC stopped her and turned serious. He said there was one last thing she needed to do. She had to help him get the warehouse keys. He told her he'd be coming to the logistics park's warehouse that night. Chi Kui Kui looked shocked and a little confused and asked what Gavin was even planning by coming there in the middle of the night. He then told her that he would explain everything later, but for now, she had to wait for him in the warehouse. Chi Kui Kui was totally confused, but he didn't give her a chance to ask more questions. Our hero made it clear she needed to wait for him and not tell anyone, no matter what. Next thing you know, Chi Kui Kui was standing alone inside this huge warehouse, looking all worried. She was overthinking everything, like, was Gavin really going to do something crazy in there? Later, inside the granary warehouse, a guy called Boss Liang showed up and greeted Gavin and Yaniel. The place was completely stacked with food, just boxes everywhere. Boss Liang told them all the food was there and asked them to check it out. He was being all business, but our boy wasn't here for small talk. He told him that his people could leave now, since their own crew would take over. Boss Liang just nodded and said if they needed anything, to call him. He even handed over a bunch of keys to the other granaries, and then he left. Finally, the place was empty except for Gavin and Yaniel. Gavin turned to his friend, who was already looking excited, and said this was it, the moment they had been waiting for. He raised his hand and boom, all this blue energy started swirling around him. Our MC shouted for everything to collect, and just like that, every single box and pallet in the warehouse disappeared instantly. Empty. Like not a crumb left. Yaniel got knocked back by the whole thing and stared like he'd just seen a UFO. He told Gavin it was insane. How did all that food just vanish in a second? Gavin just grinned and explained that anything put into his hyperspace storage would stay exactly how it was, like, forever. So, if they put in a bowl of instant noodles, even after 100 years, it would come out still hot and fresh. Yaniel tried to wrap his head around it and asked if that meant time didn't move inside this hyperspace. Gavin said he wasn't sure how all the details worked and would have to figure it out later. Suddenly, Boss Liang came running back in, saying he forgot something. But when he saw the warehouse was now a totally empty cave, the guy just froze. He thought he must be seeing things. A mountain of food just gone without a trace. He just stood there, staring, like his brain had blue-screened. Now, fast forward to night. Gavin knocked at a big metal door, and Chi Kui Kui opened it. She looked so happy and relieved to see him, probably because she'd been stressing out alone in there. He then walked in, surrounded by massive stacks of bagged goods, and looked at her super seriously. He told her that what he was about to do might freak her out, but she needed to stay quiet. Chi Kui Kui blushed hard because of how close Gavin was, and said she understood, even if she looked like she had no clue what was coming. Our protagonist asked if she was ready, and she nodded, rushed after him, still all flustered. They stopped in front of these giant piles of supplies. In his head, our MC was thinking that after grabbing all this stuff, he would probably be richer than anyone on Earth. He raised his hand, and blue energy started swirling everywhere, lighting up the whole warehouse. Chi Kui Kui watched in shock, hand over her mouth, as the vortex of energy just ate up all the goods around them. She freaked out, saying she had no idea what was happening. But in just a second, the entire warehouse was empty, not even one bag left. She just stared, totally speechless, and then looked back at Gavin like he'd just pulled off the craziest magic trick ever. She asked how everything disappeared, and if he was the one who did it. Gavin just gave her that calm, knowing smile like he was saying, "Yeah, that was all me." After that, he told her that he would explain things later, but right now, they had to go collect more supplies from the other warehouses. Dude was always in a hurry. A bit later, the two of them ended up in the surveillance room. This place was dark and packed with computer screens everywhere, all showing different camera feeds. Chi Kui Kui asked what they were even doing in there, but our MC had no time for that. He raised his hand, and boom, that blue energy of his started glowing. He told her that they needed to turn off all the cameras. Guess a little privacy was important for a guy with crazy space powers. After all the CCTV thing was gone, he just shot her a confident smile, and the two of them left the room like they were on some secret mission. Later that night, everyone was chilling in Gavin's fancy villa. Gavin, Yaniel, and Chi Kui Kui were lounging on this giant sofa. Shishi, the little kid, was being super sweet and offered Chi Kui Kui a cup of tea. She called her Big Sis, which was cute, and Chi Kui Kui thanked her. Then Gavin got all serious and stared right at Chi Kui Kui. He wanted to know if she actually believed everything he'd told her. She didn't even hesitate, she said she did, totally trusting him. Yaniel just leaned back and laughed, saying he couldn't believe how much trust Chi Kui Kui was giving Gavin. He thought it was wild that she just believed the dude like that, no questions asked. But our hero wasn't joking around anymore. He stood up and told everyone that tomorrow was the day the apocalypse was coming. He said that from now on nobody was allowed to go outside. That's it, lockdown for real. But of course, Chi Kui Kui wanted to go out and run an errand. Gavin just told her she had to be quick, and she must be back before noon, no matter what. The next day, the city looked all normal and peaceful. Bright sun, green parks, birds probably chirping everywhere. The countdown for the big ice apocalypse was at 0. This is the day. For everyone in the comments who keep asking when the apocalypse happened, this is the time. So please, I beg you, don't ask me anymore for God's sake. And yeah, things were about to get wild. Meanwhile, over at Zach's office, things were not so chill. One-eyed dragon, looking like a tough guy with his men, was standing in front of Zach's desk, trying to explain why he failed last time. He told him that it was just a mistake, they ran into another group trying to kill Gavin, and it all got mixed up. He promised it wouldn't happen again. But Zach was totally losing it. He complained that Gavin was just some loser, but somehow everything kept going wrong. He yelled that he was out of patience. The dude was basically one bad day away from snapping. But then he suddenly stood up, angry as hell, and told everyone that this time he would go do it himself. He stormed out, dragging One-Eyed Dragon along with him. Someone was about to get slapped again, for sure. Back in the city, Chi Kui Kui was out on the street, crouching down and talking to a bunch of stray cats and dogs. She told them that the apocalypse was coming, so she couldn't come feed them anymore, and said they had to learn to take care of themselves. Man, even the animals were getting warnings now. The dogs barked, the cats meowed, and Chi Kui Kui waved goodbye, hoping she could see them again someday. She was honestly too soft for this world. But not everyone was so sweet. From a distance, Zach and One-Eyed Dragon watched Chi Kui Kui as she walked away from Gavin's villa. One-Eyed Dragon said that Gavin hadn't left his house in days, so getting to him was basically impossible. But Zach, being the genius he was, said that girl must be Gavin's girlfriend. He told his guy to kidnap her and force Gavin to show up. Bro, what a scumbag move. So, Yaniel was hanging out at the villa when he got a phone call. His eyes went wide, and he yelled what sounded like bad news. He rushed over to Gavin and said that Zach had kidnapped Chi Kui Kui and now demanded that Gavin come alone. Gavin's face just turned ice cold, and his eyes got this deadly look. It was pretty obvious he was done playing nice. He was thinking that Zach must have a death wish and probably wouldn't live to see the apocalypse. Yikes. Zach really poked the wrong dude. At the abandoned building where Zach and his thugs were hiding out, the mood was tense. The place was an old brick building, totally falling apart. In the courtyard, Zach stood with his guys and One-Eyed Dragon. Two thugs had Chi Kui Kui pinned by her arms. Gavin showed up, looking like he was ready to start some real trouble. Zach, acting all smug, called him an idiot for actually showing up. But our MC wasn't here for jokes. He told them to shut up and let Chi Kui Kui go. One of Zach's thugs, this dude with spiky hair, smirked and acted like he was about to start something. Then they shoved Chi Kui Kui forward, and she broke free and ran toward Gavin, yelling his name. But Zach, being the psycho he is, pulled out a pistol and smirked like a villain. He fired the gun right at Gavin. And guess what? Chi Kui Kui didn't even hesitate. She jumped forward, shoved Gavin out of the way, and pushed him to the ground. The bullet totally missed, and Zach just stood there, mouth open, not believing what he just saw. He couldn't believe Gavin had dodged it. Yeah, Zach, your luck just ran out. Anyway, Gavin asked if she was okay, but she tried to tell him that the bad guys all had guns and they should run for it. Still, our MC gave her this cool, calm smile and told her not to be scared. because he would deal with the rest. Yeah, classic leave it to me hero move right there. With that, Gavin looked up, and Zack shouted that he was supposed to let Gavin live for a few more days, but now he was going to end him early. And of course, like a pussycat, he ordered his men to torture Gavin, but not kill him too fast. Dude really thought he was the main character or something. Gavin just stared at them, his face going cold and serious. One of the thugs started cracking his knuckles and stepped up, promising young Master Zack that he would handle everything. But our hero hit him with a savage comeback, asking if the guy was just there to die. The thug tried to swing on Gavin, but our boy didn't even flinch. He just caught the punch and smacked the guy right in the face so hard that the dude hit the wall, totally out cold. The other thugs froze, looking at Gavin like he was some kind of monster. One of them actually wondered out loud how Gavin could be so strong. Now, One-Eyed Dragon yelled for even more men to attack. So 2 more thugs charged at Gavin, and one of them pulled out a knife. But, man, our MC was just on another level. He dodged the knife like it was nothing, grabbed the thug's wrist, and turned the guy's own blade right into his leg. Ouch, that had to hurt. While that guy was crying out, he dropped into a low move and sliced the legs of the next 2 thugs with the knife. Both of them went down, screaming about their legs. Our protagonist wasn't taking any chances today. Chi-Kui was watching from a little way off, covering her mouth in shock. She couldn't believe what she just saw. She wondered in her head how Gavin could be this strong, and where he learned these wild skills. She was basically rethinking everything she thought she knew about him. But the fight wasn't over yet. One-Eyed Dragon stepped up, grinning all evil, and cocked his pistol. Zack looked super nervous behind him, probably realizing he just made a huge mistake. One-Eyed Dragon told Gavin that if he was so tough, maybe he should try dodging a bullet. He raised his gun, but Gavin charged forward with the knife, fast as lightning. Before One-Eyed Dragon could pull the trigger, a loud gunshot rang out. But get this, it wasn't from Dragon's gun. That dude took a bullet right in the chest and started bleeding everywhere. Everyone went silent as they realized Gavin was actually the one holding a pistol now, with smoke coming out of the barrel and a cocky little smirk on his face. He just told everyone that, yeah, he had a gun too. You should have seen Zack's face. He looked like his whole world just fell apart. He yelled out, not believing what just happened, while One-Eyed Dragon dropped dead right there. Chi-Kui gasped in horror. She just saw Gavin kill a man. Talk about a plot twist for her. Now Zack, the so-called big shot, totally panicked and turned to run away like a little chicken. But Gavin wasn't done. He fired again, and the bullet nailed Zack right in the back of the leg. The guy fell hard, rolling into a wall and trying to protect himself with his hands, begging Gavin not to touch him. He started screaming about being the heir to vast dragon group, saying he couldn't do anything to him. Like, bro, you really think anyone cares about your big family now? But Gavin just walked up, cool as ever, and shot him in the other knee for good measure. Now Zack was on the ground, both legs totally wrecked, looking up at Gavin with tears in his eyes. Our hero stood over him, totally unfazed, and said the coldest thing ever. He told Zack that he just did what he wanted. Once Zack touches one of his friends, it's the end for him. But Zack tried to beg his way out, saying that he admitted defeat this time and asked our boy to name his price. Bro was basically waving the white flag, but our MC was not here for the drama. He just gave him the smuggest little smile and told him he wanted 1 trillion. Yeah, 1 trillion. Zack's jaw almost hit the floor. He just sat there, totally shocked, like his brain broke for a second. Then Zack looked straight at him and said that he told Gavin to name a price, not make some stupid joke about 1 trillion. Who the hell could come up with that kind of money, right? Gavin's face got real cold and scary as he told him that since he couldn't pay, he shouldn't act so tough. He was ready to teach him a lesson. And dude, Gavin just kept punching Zack right in the face, and then it was like a beatdown montage. Zack's face started turning all bruised and swollen while he kept begging Gavin to stop, calling him Brother Gavin, then even Master Gavin, just looking for some mercy. But our hero just kept going, telling Zack he was a coward and that he was going to finish him off today. Just when it looked like Zack was about to get flattened for good, a police car screeched to a stop, and the sirens and lights started going off. The police yelled for everyone to freeze and not move. Gavin paused and looked up, suddenly realizing that Zack had probably called the cops for backup. Man, talk about being a snitch in the worst way. Zack, even though he looked like a total wreck, managed to give Gavin this cocky, swollen smile. He said that not only could Gavin not kill him now, but he also just committed assault in public, so he would probably spend the rest of his life in prison. But Gavin wasn't finished. He shot down on Zack's groin. That bird is gone now. Of course, Zack screamed that his balls and his happiness were destroyed, and honestly, I almost felt bad for the guy. Almost. Now, Gavin stood there all calm, while Zack was rolling around and crying on the ground. Suddenly, the cops were running in with their guns drawn, yelling at Gavin to drop his weapon. But Gavin wasn't even fazed. He told Zack that the reason he wasn't killing him right now wasn't because the cops showed up. It was because letting him die without seeing the apocalypse would actually be too easy on him. The police kept shouting for Gavin to stop and drop the gun. Gavin just gave them a confident smirk and told them that there was no way he was getting caught. He then started counting down on his fingers. 3, 2, 1. Then he announced that time was up. Suddenly, one of the police officers who had been charging in stopped dead in his tracks, looking totally freaked out. The air started filling with dust, and then everyone realized that it was actually snow. Yeah, snow in the middle of summer. All the cops looked up at the sky, confused and shivering as the snow came down harder and harder. One cop started hugging himself, saying it was freezing and the temperature was dropping super fast. An injured thug lying on the ground started screaming because big, sharp ice crystals were forming right on his bloody wounds. It looked seriously painful. Honestly, I think some of these guys wished Gavin had just punched them again instead. Even Zach, who was still on the ground, started yelling for help, begging someone to save him first because he was freezing to death. Our boy Gavin just looked back at this mess, at Zach, the cops, everyone totally panicking, with the coldest, most uncaring expression. He knew the apocalypse had finally started, and he was ready. But for these other guys? Yeah, things were about to get real ugly. Looking at how bad Zach is now, one of the police officers yelled that they had to save people. Our MC was now dragging a totally shocked Chi Kui Kui by the hand as they ran through the icy alley. Chi Kui Kui told him that it was so cold, the temperature must have dropped to minus 20 or 30 degrees, and she finally believed the apocalypse was really here. Poor girl looked like she was about to freak out. Gavin just kept moving, telling her that the temperature was going to drop even more. No point standing around and freezing their butts off. Suddenly, the lead officer ran after them and pointed a gun right at Gavin's back, telling them they couldn't leave. Gavin stopped and turned around, his face all cold and scary. He warned the officer to put down the gun because if he kept holding the metal, his hand would get ruined by the cold. The officer did not listen at first, but then his face twisted in pain and he dropped the gun, yelling that his hand was frozen and he couldn't feel anything. While the officers freaked out, Gavin walked towards Zach again, then knelt down in front of him, pretty much loving every second of it. He asked him what he thought now, and reminded him that he said he would never be caught. Zach begged for help, whining that he was freezing and if it kept up, his legs would probably freeze off too. Yeah, karma was hitting hard and cold. But Gavin stood up, looking at Zach like he was dirt, and told him to enjoy the apocalypse. Then he and Chi Kui Kui just turned their backs and walked off, leaving Zach reaching for them and crying in the snow. Honestly, that dude totally asked for it. Out on the city streets, things were getting worse by the minute. Snow was everywhere, and people were running around in a panic, wearing almost nothing warm. One guy shouted, asking what the hell was up with the weather, and saying people were going to freeze to death. Someone else yelled that it had to be a once-in-a-century disaster. Nobody had any clue what to do. A little while later, Gavin and Chi Kui Kui were walking through the snowy mess, wrapped up in some thick winter coats. Chi Kui Kui looked at our MC in shock, saying she couldn't believe it. Everything he warned about was actually happening. Gavin told her that this was just the start, and things were only going to get harder for everyone. Chi Kui Kui looked really worried now and asked how long this ice apocalypse would last. Gavin said he didn't know, and that in his last life when he died, the apocalypse had already gone on for a year with no sign of stopping. Inside a clothing store, things were going nuts. Gavin and Chi Kui Kui watched as a desperate crowd was looting every warm thing they could find. A store worker yelled at them to stop or he'd call the police. One of the looters shouted back that he could go ahead and call, but if they didn't get warm clothes, they'd freeze to death. Another looter told everyone to hurry up and grab the rest from the cabinet. The place was pure chaos, and nobody cared about rules anymore. Chi Kui Kui looked around with a grim face. If people were already fighting for clothes, it wouldn't be long before society totally fell apart. Gavin agreed. It wasn't just about order falling apart. More and more people were going to lose their humanity too. Yeah, our MC had seen this all before, and it was not pretty. Suddenly, two thugs jumped out of nowhere and blocked them. The blonde one told them to stop, and the dark-haired guy demanded that they take off their coats and hand them over. Seriously? Robbing people for jackets now? The world went downhill fast. Gavin just stared them down, totally unfazed, and told them that they must have a death wish and should get lost. The two thugs lost it, yelling that he was way too arrogant, and then charged at him with their knives. Bad move, dudes. Gavin moved so fast that the dark-haired thug got punched straight in the gut and dropped like a sack of potatoes. Before the blonde one could even react, our MC whipped out a handgun and pointed it right at his face. He asked the blonde guy if he still thought he was being arrogant now. The blonde thug totally panicked, dropped to his knees, threw his hands up, and started sucking up like crazy, saying Gavin was super humble and he definitely didn't want any trouble. Gavin just kept the gun pointed at him, looking like a total boss. Anyone still doubting this guy was seriously not paying attention.